Oh, hello. I've decided that I'm going to embrace my southern roots and yell at the television. So, Melinda and I have, as of late, because of all this coronavirus business, been keeping up with all the major politicians in our area and also federally. So, Donald Trump, our state governor, who is Phil Murphy, and then Stephen Fulop, who's our mayor of Jersey City, and also Cuomo, because we work in New York City. Andrew Cuomo, the governor there, and De Blasio occasionally, though we haven't been keeping up too much with him.
Well, the mayor of Jersey City kind of doesn't understand technology, so
They have a lot of
there.
problems. Yeah, they have some trouble.
They don't know how to live stream.
There's a lot of the last one we watched of him was him yelling at whoever was operating the camera, saying, "Just do whatever you did yesterday."
Such an old man thing.
That's what I remember.
And this is our baby cam.
Yeah, he's
We
not,
had our baby.
Yeah, he's not.
So you can see him. He takes after Andrew.
He's not going to be here for this because I'm going to be drinking and
Well,
cursing.
he's here in the little monitor, and when he whines, I'm gonna go help him.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn this down because I can. Oh, it's way up. Yeah, this doesn't
Well,
need to be
so
louder
that we
than
can
this.
hear him.
I always keep it at 4.
What else? So what do you want?
Get me a pint glass with some ice cubes, and then just bring the whiskey bottle over, and I'll pour some Dr. Pepper in there too. So today, Melinda had the idea that we could. She thinks that it's very entertaining to watch me react to the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, while he tries to talk science to the American people. So we're going to share that with all of you. But in order to make it slightly less painful for me, because I don't know if I could sit through another one of these, I'm going to be drinking heavily. So, yeah, might as well.
Is this one good?
Oh, yeah, that one's real good. Here we go.
And since we had our baby, I'm only allowed to have one drink a day. And I already had my cider.
You get Dr. Pepper when you have a chance.
So I'm gonna have some water in my Pokemon cup. Pokemon?
Gotta catch 'em. Oh, but don't catch it. You don't want to catch coronavirus. It's very bad. Stay at home. Wash your hands regularly. And by regularly, I don't mean once a month, whether you need it or not. I mean, basically, anytime you touch anything, don't touch your face like I just did. You stay away from stuff. Don't shake hands. Don't drop things out of the fridge. Just wave at people from afar. They'll understand. This is such blasphemy. This is Tullamore Dew, which is a very, very nice... I'm not very, very nice. It's not like top shelf, but it's a very nice Irish whiskey, and I am just making it go down smoother. Just cutting the taste. My ancestors are spinning in their grave. All right, we're ready to get this shit show rolling.
So you found it?
I did. I think I found a bunch of different ones. The Guardian, the Sun, or the Washington Post. Probably the Guardian. That's the first one. They're usually pretty good.
Yeah. And then I guess you just gotta like
Find the beginning.
find where you started.
It has not started yet. Where's he start?
When it
There's
walks
his
in.
orange tan. Look at all that orange. Is Fauci here? Oh, Fauci's here! They got him back. They dragged him out of his cell in the basement of the White House for this one. So many people were
Oh my
asking
God.
questions about
Who's
it.
this woman?
Dr. Birx.
She looks
Brooks?
like
Birx.
she's wearing the Egyptian goddess, like, spirit Halloween costume.
She looks like that kindergarten teacher that everyone hated. She's very smart. I have to give her credit.
There he is.
Here he comes. The man himself. Humpty Dumpty.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Busy time, very busy time.
I bet.
And let me begin by
Cheers.
again expressing our support, solidarity, and love for the people of our great country. We're fighting for you, and we're enduring all of this together. And we will soon prevail together, making a lot of progress. We appreciate all of the great assistance from the governors and people within the states. The relationships have been really very good.
That's not
With
what
Governor
Cuomo said.
We're
Why is this tie
working
pink?
very hard to get additional
No.
things to New York
That's
as
an odd
quickly
color
as
for him.
possible. As you know, we took care of the hospital, including personnel, the 2,500 beds that we built just recently at Javits, including personnel. And we opened it up to COVID, and that's
I
something
love that he said that like it was a person.
we also did
We
in
opened it up to
Louisiana,
COVID.
and
He
we're doing
knocked.
it in Dallas.
We let him in.
So we have a lot of not only hospitals being built, but now we're manning the hospitals because states are in many cases unable to get additional people to work. It's just an incredible
I
situation.
can't remember the guy's name,
Never
but there
been
was this
anything like this.
stand-up comedian who was an impressionist.
One of the most
Frank
important issues in
Caliendo. They had this
battling
bit
this
about John
pandemic
Madden,
is
who was a football
coordinating the
announcer,
delivery of the
and it was
crucial
about how
supplies
the great
throughout
thing
the
about John
nation based
Madden is
upon the
that
most
when he
accurate
commentated,
information
he
available.
would just tell you how the
And
game was played.
we've
So he'd be like,
got
"Oh,
the
you
best
see, they're going to
healthcare
get the
and
ball, and they're going to try to run it
disaster
down to there, and then if
experts
they make it in there, it's a
anywhere in the
touchdown."
world, and
And
everybody
that's
will
how
tell you
Donald
that,
Trump
and we're
talks.
dealing
It's
with
like he's
big
just
parts of
talking
the
to Phil
world and
Space,
helping them
because he'll
also
be
through
like,
this
"We're doing what we
horrible
can.
situation where
He literally just said,
151
we've got all these
151
beds, and we're getting
nations
people
going through it.
to
We're working
man
to
those
ensure that the
beds,
supplies
healthcare
are
providers,
delivered
because
where and
you
when
need
they're
people
needed.
like
In some
that.
cases,
You need
we're
people
telling
to be,
governors,
yeah, you
we
need
can't go
nurses,
there
don't you?
because we don't think you need it, or we think someplace else needs it. And pretty much so far, we've been right about that, and we'll continue to do it as it really gets. This will be probably the toughest week between this week and next week, and there'll be a lot
Famous
of
last
death,
words.
unfortunately, but a lot less death than if this wasn't done. But there will be death.
Oh, Jesus.
We're looking for an obvious focus in the hardest hit regions. Some of them are obvious and some aren't so obvious. They spring up, they come, and they hit you like you got hit by a club. An area that wasn't at all bothered. You look at what's going on in New Jersey. The governor's doing an excellent job.
What
by
is
the
he
way,
trying
how
to
that
say?
sprang up.
This is like
Every
the fourth
decision
run-on sentence
that we're making is made to save lives.
in this, like,
It's really our sole consideration.
smorgasbord
We
of
want to save
words.
lives. We want as few lives lost as possible. It's therefore critical that certain media outlets stop spreading false rumors
oh my
and
God.
creating
I swear to God, if he's
fear
talking
and
about
even
CNN.
panic with the public. It's just incredible. I could name them, but it's the same ones, always the same ones.
CNN.
I guess
He's
they're
talking
looking
about
for
CNN.
ratings. I don't know what they're looking for.
He's
So
talking
bad
about,
for our
he's talking
country.
about CNN.
And so bad, the people understand it. You look at the levels and approval ratings, and they're the lowest they've ever been.
What are you
Media.
doing?
It's so bad for our country, so bad for the world.
Jesus
You gotta
Christ.
put it together for a little while, get this over with, and then go back to your fake news.
What are you
During a national
doing?
emergency, it's just essential that the federal decision makers cut through the fog of confusion in order to follow the facts and the science.
He's still talking about
Many
it.
hospital administrators that we've been in touch with, even in the really hot spots, you know what they are communicating directly with us
Yeah, we know what the hot
that their
spots are.
level of supplies are meeting essential needs. And
Did you notice
at
that
the current
flawless
time,
segue,
they're really
by the way, from
thrilled to
fake
be where
news
they
to just
are.
talking about
whenever
the thing
local
he's supposed to
shortages
talk
are
about?
reported, we're asking states to immediately meet the demand, and we're stockpiling large amounts in different
I just
areas.
think it's
in different
interesting
areas,
that,
and we're
like,
going to be discussing
he's
that
always
in a
reading,
little
but
while.
then when the other people
But we
talk,
want
they're not,
distributions
like,
to be made
reading.
Well, he
on a
also
fair
goes off
basis.
script
We
a
have to
lot.
take care of a large
He does.
country, not
He's,
just
that's the
certain
thing.
areas
There are
of the
things he's
country.
good at, and we were talking about this the other
but
day. He's a
no
good
matter where,
salesman,
we've
and
been
one
there
thing a
and
salesman
we've been there
does
very strongly.
is
I wanna
he
thank them.
adds
I wanna thank the
punches,
Army Corps of
small
Engineers. I wanna
jabs
thank our
in
military
between
for
the
what
words
they
that are
do.
written. So when he said hot spots,
And
he
we're
needed to
going
add
be
something there,
adding
and
a
he said, "You know what
tremendous
those
amount
are."
of military to help supplement the states. Thousands of soldiers, thousands.
There's
thousands
also a good
of
chance
medical workers
that there's a
professionals,
teleprompter.
nurses, doctors.
Because there's a rumor
And,
that he needs
there'll be a
glasses and he
large
doesn't
number
wear
will
them.
be-
So there's a
will
good
be
chance there's a
telling them
teleprompter,
over
and the rest of them
next
are
very
reading the
short period
teleprompter. and he
Where
just
they're
can't.
going. They're going into war. They're going into a battle that they've never really trained for. Nobody's trained for this. Nobody's seen this. I would say since 1917, which was the greatest of them all.
Was it
the
great?
greatest of this type of battle, probably the greatest of them all.
Was it
right?
great when all those people
1917,
died?
Up to 100 million people were killed. In addition, we're working directly with hospitals and existing suppliers and distributors to ensure that those with the greatest need are prioritized. And that need changes. One day it's one state or one locale, one city, and then all of a sudden they're starting to do well. We had some very good reports coming out of the state of Washington, coming out of various
they got
parts
hit
of
first.
California.
So it's going to be over
So areas
first.
that we were getting ready to really hit hard, we can now go to other areas. It looks like New York is going to be hit very hard,
Already is.
and Louisiana is just amazing the way it just spread up. And everyone's doing a good job, but they're going to be hit hard. Areas in the country that are not experiencing large-scale infections are requesting supplies beyond what their present circumstances require. And we talk to them and we tell them and we explain it, and for the most part, they're good with it. We think we're right. It's very understandable that officials would seek to get the most they can get for their communities. But the fears of the shortages have led to inflated requests. We have some states and areas where they're just asking for far more. I mean, look, we had one state asking for 40,000 ventilators.
That's New York.
40,000.
He's talking about New
Think of
York.
it, 40,000.
You just said New
It's
York
not
has been hit very hard.
possible. They won't need that many, and now they're admitting they don't need that many, but we're getting as many as we can to them.
Did they
No.
admit it?
No,
Again,
Andrew
nobody's ever
Cuomo
seen
admitted
anything
they
like
do
this in
not
terms of
currently need that
ventilators, in
many.
terms of
They are trying to
protective
get ahead of it
equipment,
because they have not
and,
hit the apex yet.
uniforms
The
and
numbers are still
outfits.
rising.
But it makes it more difficult for distributors to prioritize the real need, and it could intentionally, and look,
I mean,
they
there's a
have
lot of
everybody
people in New
has
York.
proper intentions,
Yeah.
but they want to make sure they're 100%.
lot of them are about to
and
be very, very
sometimes
sick.
when they know they don't need
A
it,
lot
they
of
want
old
it
people
anyway.
too.
Yep.
It gives them that extra feeling of satisfaction, but we just can't do that. It's not even possible to think
Hopefully
about.
the old people are mostly staying
And that's
at home.
why, and
It's
we're
mostly
backup.
like young
Remember,
people
we're
at Target
backup.
and
We're
McDonald's
the
and
greatest
stuff.
backup that ever existed
Yeah.
for the states,
I don't know.
especially when we start getting into the hospital building business and getting into the medical center building business. When you see we built many hospitals,
Stop saying
numerous
built.
hospitals in some states and medical centers. That's why my administration's been requesting actual usage numbers directly from the states and hospitals to meet their needs, because we want to be ready when the brunt of it comes, which is coming quickly. You see it.
We want to
You
be
see it
ready,
as sure as
but we
you
don't
can
want the
see it.
states to have the
And
number
when
of
the brunt
ventilators
of
they
it
need
comes,
to be
we want to
ready.
be ready to hit the area that needs it. We don't want to have spent everything in one area and they don't need it there anywhere near the
So
extent.
put it
So
in a truck and send
let
it
me
over.
be
It takes
extremely
3 days to
clear
get from
about
one end of the
point.
country to the
We
other.
will move heaven and earth to safeguard our great American citizens. We will continue to use every power, every authority, every single resource we've got to keep our people healthy, safe, secure, and to get this thing over with. We want to finish this war. We have to get back to work. We have to open our country again. We have to open our country again.
Like it's Disneyland.
We don't want to be doing this for months and months and months.
Closed
We
for
wanna open our
cleaning.
country again.
Sorry.
This country wasn't meant for this. Few were.
Sorry,
were.
the It's a Small World
We
After
have to
All is on
open
the
our
fritz.
country again.
I hate
I
that
just
ride.
spoke with
I've
the
never been there.
My mom
commissioners,
made me
leaders
go on
of
that ride. It was terrible.
It
I
seems
would say
boring. Is
virtually
it boring?
all of the sports
Yeah, it's
leagues.
just like presidents and children.
Rob
and stuff,
Manfred,
right?
Commissioner of
Animatronic
Baseball, Major
presidents
League
and
I just
Baseball,
remember the
Roger
song
Goodell,
moves.
Commissioner of the National Football League, Adam Silver, Commissioner
I remember they
of the
added
National
because they have all the
Basketball
presidents there, and they
Association,
added an
Gary
animatronic Donald
Bettman,
Trump.
Commissioner
And
of the
it's
National
one of the
Hockey
most
League.
terrifying things I've ever seen.
Jay
in my life.
Monahan, Commissioner of the PGA Tour, Kathy Engelbert, Commissioner of the Women's National Basketball Association,
What is this list
Dana
of?
White, the
I
Ultimate
was
Fighting
talking.
Championship,
What is this?
Vince McMahon, President of the WWE,
Vince
Don
McMahon.
Garber, Commissioner of Major League Soccer,
Is this just a list of his friends?
Steve Phelps, President of NASCAR,
Oh, it definitely is.
Michael Wan, Commissioner of the LPGA,
Kitty.
Roger
You're not
Penske,
helping.
Founder and Chairman, Penske Corp, and Drew Fleming, President of the Breeders' Cup.
Fleming.
And there were a couple of others on, and these are all the great leaders of sport, and They want to get back. They got
What?
to get back.
He was just
You can't
naming
do this.
people who want to be able to make
The
their
sports
money
weren't
again.
designed for it. The whole concept of our nation wasn't designed for it. We're going to have to get back. We want to get back soon, very soon. For example, and I have to say, we're using the Defense Production Act very powerfully. In some times directly, in many cases indirectly. Just the threat of it's usually enough.
That
But
type
FEMA
of
and HHS have
linguistics
ordered
always bothers me about
180
him.
million.
That like it's an
Look at
act.
that,
You are
180
either
million.
using
Whoever
it
heard
or
of
you are not.
180
You're
million
initiating the act or you're not.
N95
You can't use it
masks.
powerfully or weakly.
And we're working now with 3M to see whether or not that all works out, but we want them to help our country. And I think it's going to be okay. We're going to soon let you know. But we need the masks. We don't want other people getting it. That's why we're instituting a lot of Defense
You
Production
don't want
Act.
other people getting them. Who?
I guess
You
on
could
their
call it
conscience.
retaliations because that's what it is. It's a retaliation. If people don't
There should be enough
If
masks.
people don't give us
Everyone
what
in
we
the
need for our
world.
people, we're going to be very tough, and we've been very tough. Usually we don't have to use it, but we've used it plenty. It's turning out more and more, unfortunately, and it works very well. Our supply chain logistics task force, led by Admiral John Polovchek, who's doing a fantastic job.
Wow, he practiced
will
that name in the
ensure
mirror
they're
before he came
distributed
out.
to the healthcare and critical infrastructure workers in the areas with the most pressing requirements. That's the 60 million masks that we're talking about, and the 180 million N95 masks. 180 million. Who ever heard of
What was the first one?
180 million masks?
What was the 60,000? He just said
And
60,000
this is
masks.
a
Got 180
incredible thing. A lot
million
of times we have to stop playing this
N95
game.
masks.
If
I think he
a
said
governor
the first one
wants
was an order
200
they're trying to
ventilators, and I say, no, we're going to send you 1,000. We think you need more than 200. And then the media meets with the governor, and they say, oh, you got
Oh,
more?
God.
Well, it's not enough. The president should have sent more. So he's asking for 200. We give him 1,000. They say, how's the president doing? He should have given more, because that's politics. That's politics. And that's unfortunate, because we can't play that game. And, you know, that's one party doing it, and the other party's happy. But
I love
they're
that
all really
Donald
happy
Trump
because they should
is
have been doing this
explaining
work
how
themselves
we
for a long
we
period
can't
of time.
afford to be
Many of
bipartisan
their
right
cupboards
now.
were bare.
The guy who, when
With
there were
respect to the
protesters at his
ventilators,
rally,
FEMA and
he
HHS
encouraged his
continue to
followers
monitor the
to,
data
quote,
on an hourly
beat the
basis.
shit out of them and
We're
that he would
provided by
pay
the
for their
states in order to
attorney
most
fees, their
effectively
court
target
fees.
the
He
distribution
now
of
is
supplies.
explaining
We've
that
been
we
asking
need to all
states to
just settle
provide us
down and
with
not point fingers.
daily updates on the number of ventilators and their utilization rates, because some states have more ventilators than they need. They don't even like to
Who?
admit it. They'll admit it when everything's over, but that doesn't help us very much.
What
This
do you
data
think
is
they'll
vitally
admit it when everything's
necessary so
over?
that we can
Why does he
ensure
think they'll admit it
ventilators
when
are
everything's
getting
over
to
if they're
the
not
right
admitting
place
it
at the
now?
right
And
time?
who would need?
FEMA,
Who would ask for more than they need?
HHS, DoD are
Why? What
developing
could possibly be the
resources within
benefit to having more
the
than
next
you
24
know that you will
hours.
need?
They will have a whole different set
Like,
of
does he think they're
criteria.
gonna sell them?
Every day, it's different criteria. Every day, this horrible, invisible enemy changes a course. It changes course.
Are you talking about Mike Pence?
If you were fighting
Horrible enemy.
the normal fight, you know what's happening. Here's
Oh God, he's gone off
they
book.
hit one,
He's off
they
script.
hit another, they hit another state. They hit areas that you didn't expect. But we're watching it and we're capturing it. Our goal is to stay several days ahead of the needs in each state. But we can only do that if the cities and states utilize real-time local knowledge to provide timely and precise data about actual usage. So we have to be able to do that. And if a state has ventilators, as an example, that they know they're not going to need, they should give them over, and we should move them with the other ones. We have now 10,000 in our pipeline. And
What pipeline?
stockpiled, 10,000 close.
I guess the
And we're moving
Federal
some into New
Reserve?
York.
It's not a
So we're
pipeline.
gonna need
Pipeline
some
means in the
additional.
process.
We're moving some into New York City and state separately, and we're bringing them to the point where they'll need them. I can also report
New York
that at
City
my
is part of New
direction,
York State.
1,000 military personnel are deploying to New York City to assist where they're needed the most. That's the hottest of all the hot spots. New Jersey is right there. It's right next to it. And I don't know if that's overflow, but New Jersey's, it's a great state and it's a very It's a crowded state also, where you have people on top of people. It's always tough, but
The north
we're
is
bringing
crowded.
some of the ventilators. We got some from New
He
Jersey
said it's a
just
great
yesterday,
state.
and we're going to bring them some more, including
like it.
doctors.
The water's no
We're
good.
getting
You like
doctors,
it,
nurses, respiratory
You like it
specialists, and
because you
other
got
support
all-you-can-eat
workers. These are from the
sushi.
military. We're taking
true.
people now out of our military.
You got me
We've
there.
been doing it, but now we're doing it on a larger basis, and I want to thank Secretary of Defense Esper, who will
Is that the guy who sounds like
detail
Mike Tyson?
some of what we're doing tomorrow and Monday. As the situation in Washington State continues to stabilize, we're returning a 300-bed federal medical station to a different location where we need it, and we appreciate that. They won't be needing it, and we appreciate them letting us know we're going to move it to a different location. It was already built. Many governors initially made large requests for federal support for their
I don't
states.
know why.
in
I thought he was going to say
anticipation of a
many
greater
governors
number
initially
of
made love to
cases, but
ventilators.
the
or
residents of
something.
Washington State have done a really good job of following the federal distancing guidelines. They really have. I'm also pleased
It's one
to
of those
report
jabs
that
again. They
Oregon
really have.
will be
He's always trying to
spending
find a
and
spot
sending-
again.
They're spending a lot of money because they really did stockpile well, and they're also sending 140 ventilators directly to New York, which we appreciate. And I want to thank the Vice President for the great work he's doing every day dealing with our nation's governors. Mike Pence has been working day and night on this, and we want to get it over. He's got to get a little more sleep than he's getting. He hasn't been getting very much, I will tell you.
Oh,
And we're all in
has
this
the
together.
baby
It's,
not been
a
getting
beautiful
enough
thing to
sweepy
see how
time?
People are joining forces
I'm
to help one
sorry.
another. They really
People are dying.
In addition
People
to
are
our
losing their
courageous
jobs,
doctors,
but
nurses,
Mikey
and healthcare
Pence
workers,
hasn't
I
been
also
getting
wanna thank
his
the
beauty
incredible food
sleep.
supply
I mean,
workers
you can relate.
who are
I can.
feeding our nation. I spoke just a little while
That's
ago.
why I have absolutely
to
no
Senator
empathy for that.
Bozeman. You know Senator Bozeman. We all do. He's a great senator.
I
He's a
don't know
great
Senator Bozeman.
person.
I thought he
We
said
spoke just this
bozo.
morning, and we discussed how important it is to keep our farmers and ranchers, processors, and distributors in our nation's prayers. And I want to thank the senator
and
for the
prayers.
incredible
I know,
job
man.
he's
That's the
been
thing.
doing.
Like, no
And a lot of the
prayers,
senators
no
and
prayers.
congressmen and everybody's
Stimulus
working very hard.
package,
My
subsidies.
administration is
Is he like really
working very
religious? 'Cause he
aggressively
always
to
says thoughts
pioneer
and
new
prayers with
medical-
stuff.
Well, first of all, there's this ridiculous, like,
Countermeasures to
hypocritical
treat and
thing where
prevent
it's not
infection.
hypocritical, but it makes no
Working
sense
on
that
a lot
the
of
president
things.
is just expected
we
to say,
must
like, God
utilize our
bless America
nation's
and stuff, even
scientific
if he's not going
brilliance
to
to
be
vanquish
religious.
the virus.
He has to
We
swear
have
an
to
oath on the
vanquish
Bible
the
and stuff like
virus
that, even if
as
he's not
quickly as we
Christian.
can.
Donald Trump is
Because-
famously not religious,
We have a lot of things happening in
but
this
the
country,
evangelicals really like him.
and
Christians really
we have
like
a great
him.
future. But
I
we
mean,
have to
yeah,
get
the dude
back
cheated
to
on
it.
his wife with like 7 porn
This week,
stars.
the
No,
FDA
he's not a Christian.
established the Coronavirus Treatment Accelerator Program, which is
He did not say
expediting the development of
coronavirus.
new antiviral and other
Sundowning
therapies,
is
and
a
they're
hell
doing
of a
it
thing.
on a very rapid basis. And I think we're having some very good results. We'll tell you
The
about
minimum
that.
age to be
HHS
president
continues
is
to speed the
35.
development of
Why
therapies
can't we get someone under
derived
70?
from human blood
Oh, God.
that have the potential
cat.
to lessen the
Yeah.
severity or shorten the length of the illness. And as you know, last Saturday, the FDA also gave emergency authorization
The length of the
for
illness. The illness, by the way, is what I call
hydroxy-
my penis.
chloroquine, and the hydroxychloroquine is
I'm just making words up now.
I hope it's going to be a very important answer. We're having some very good things happening with it, and we're going
We
to
have some
be
good things. We're
distributing
taking it out for ice
through
cream.
the strategic
Took it to
national
the baseball
stockpile.
game. Going to the beach later.
It's going
Have some very
into
good
the
things happening
strategic
to it.
national stockpile to treat certain patients, and we have millions and millions of doses of it. 29 million to be exact. In
And we
addition
don't
to
know if
that,
it's
we're
going to
making
do
it,
anything.
and we're also getting it from
We're making
various
more
other
of them.
locations and
And
countries.
we don't
and
know if it's
one
going to
case
do
I called
anything.
Prime Minister Modi
Yeah, I
of India
haven't
this
seen
morning. They
anything
make
about it.
large amounts of hydroxychloroquine.
The amount of money you were spending on
very
that,
large amounts.
just spend it on
frankly.
ventilators.
And I said they had a hold because
I
they
think
have
Rutgers is
1.5
doing
billion
something
people,
with testing.
and they think a lot of it. And I,
I don't
said
think with this
I
like
appreciated they would
hydroxychloroquine
release
thing.
the
I think they were like
amounts
working
that we
on like an
ordered, and they are
antibody
giving it
test or
serious
something
consideration. But they do
That's
make
good. We do
India
need
makes
one
a
of
lot
those.
of it. But we have already 29 million.
That would actually help the economy
If
more
you
than
look
anything.
at
I know
that's a
that,
big number.
like,
29 million
I think it's
doses.
ridiculous that they keep talking about the
We've
stock
got
market and the
millions of
economy and stuff when
doses
people
that
are
are
fucking dying.
being
If they
made
want to help
here,
the economy, put
and
all the
many
money you
millions of
can into an
doses that are
antibody
made
test.
elsewhere
If you've
that are
already had the
being
virus
shipped here.
and gotten
and
over
it
it,
will be
you can go
arriving.
back to work.
We're just hearing really positive stories, and we're continuing to collect the data. But I'll just speak for myself.
Yeah,
It's
please.
been out for a long time. It's a malaria drug. It's also a drug for lupus. And there's a study out that people with lupus aren't catching this horrible virus. They're not.
I haven't seen that.
I haven't either, but also maybe
affected
that's
so much
because of
by it. Now,
lupus,
maybe that's
not
correct.
because of
Maybe
the
it's false. You
the
have to
cure.
check it out. But
Oh my God.
there's a lot of very positive things
Don't lupus
happening with
people,
that.
like,
That's a
not go
game changer.
outside?
If that's the case. Obviously, we continue to work on the vaccines.
Just
The
a
vaccines
skin
have to be
disease,
down
I
the
think.
road by probably 14, 15, 16 months. We're doing great on the vaccines. I think Johnson & Johnson is leading, seems to be leading in terms of the studies, but we'll see what happens.
Johnson and Johnson.
But I feel good about that, but that's down the road.
I don't know, they did
But
that.
tremendous promise with what's just been mentioned. In addition to that,
You already
Gilead
forgot the name
Sciences
of it.
has initiated a phase 3
Tremendous progress
down the
with
line,
whatever
meaning
we were just talking about.
clinical
Minute ago.
studies of the drug remdesivir. Now, it's approximately 1,000 patients, which is a pretty good study.
I don't know.
Other
They all
drugs are
sound like
also being
Pokemon.
studied in patients, and this week Oracle, great company, donated a new web portal.
Don't need it.
Larry Ellison,
What does that
amazing
mean?
guy,
They donated
and
a
platform
website.
to the government to gather
Like the
real-time
domain
data
name?
on how patients are responding to the
Maybe.
various new treatments, and they have a very sophisticated site, and we'll be learning a lot from Oracle, and thank you to them. We're also spending
Sophisticated site.
economic
Boy, your drink is empty.
Almost.
dollars like you wouldn't believe, and speeding economic relief
What's
to
the-
American
what's the one you've
workers,
been talking
families,
about,
and
the
businesses.
malaria one?
Yesterday, the Small Business Administration
Hydro-
launched the Paycheck
Hydroxyquil?
Let's
Protection
say
Program to help
hydroxyquil or
employees
Rampardos. Like
keep paying
you
their
can
workers.
totally see a commercial of
in
like
24 hours.
if
the
you have an
Small
erection that lasts for more
Business
than 4 hours after
Administration
taking Rampardos.
And
please
over
consult your doctor.
1,200 lending partners processed over 28,000 loans. It's so
Riperior,
far ahead
side
of
Put
effects.
schedule.
it on the table.
And billions of dollars.
Side effects of
It's worked
Riperior
out
may include
incredibly
blood clots.
well, and I want to thank Bank of America and J.P. Morgan Chase and a lot of the big banks that have been
I
involved.
thought
and a
Bank
lot
of
the
America
community
like
banks.
was a bad
Community
thing.
banks have
Yeah,
really
they're
jumped on it.
awful people.
it's,
I'm sure they're donating.
so
We
far
were just
going
talking about
way
this the
ahead
other
of
day.
schedule.
I'm sure they're donating
The
to
SBA
help
also
with this whole
clarified
thing,
that
but it's because if they
faith-based
don't,
organizations,
they're,
including
they, you
houses
know
of
that as soon as
worship,
this is all over,
are
they're going to be able to
eligible
use
for
this
the
as
Paycheck
advertising
Protection
to tell
Program.
people like,
That's great.
see, we donated to make
as
sure
well as
everything
the
was okay,
economic injury
so that they can try to
disaster
make more
loan
money.
program
Because right now they look
that
like
you're familiar
total
with
assholes
on the same
for a
terms
number
as
of
every
reasons.
other applicant. If we run out of funding for the
Wells
employee
Fargo, I think.
retention program, I will
Who owns
immediately ask
Bank of America.
Congress for more money. This is money that's really going directly to the people that need it, the small businesses that need it, and the workers that need it. Finally, I can,
Fun
because
fact,
when we open, we want to
I
open
think it's like a quarter
small
of it is going to
with businesses
employees.
that are going. Remember, we had the greatest economy in the world, and then one day we were told we got to shut it down, stop it, tell everyone to stay home
Well, they
because
didn't
of
say
this
shut down the
horrible
economy.
virus, and we did
They
that.
sort of did
And we did the right thing, but now we have to
How?
open. We have to open
because
our country.
stuff was
Finally, I can
required to
report
close.
that as of
Stuff that
today,
is
the
not
State Department has successfully
essential
coordinated
has to
the
close,
safe
and that's
return
the
of more
economy.
than
The economy is
40,000
the spending
Americans
and
stuck
distribution
abroad
of money
on
and
over
products.
400 flights
Yeah,
from
but I mean,
75
nobody,
countries.
was,
Many of those
shut
countries were
down the
terrific in
economy.
helping us.
Right,
and I
but they
appreciate
they
that
did.
very
Like
much.
they shut down.
Some of them I had
Nobody
called the leaders of the country,
Declared,
most of whom
but
I know.
literally saying shut down the
And
economy.
Yes, in those
once I
words,
did,
but
they
that's what happened.
snapped like you wouldn't believe. They really helped us. Great.
The
So
thing
I
for me is
appreciate
he's
that.
like, we had the
So we
best
brought back 40,000
economy in the world, and then
Americans
we
who
just
were
shut it
literally
down. And
stuck
I'm like,
in some countries with no chance of
Denmark
getting
has a
out.
pretty
We got
good
them back.
economy. It might be better than
400
ours.
flights,
Greenland,
75 countries.
Iceland,
Think of that.
Finland
And those
definitely
countries
has
in
a
almost
really
every
good
instance had a
economy.
big problem with the virus.
Fun fact about all
I
those
want
countries,
to thank the
they're
American
all
people,
socialist.
most of all, for the
Finland
selfless
is a
sacrifices
conspiracy
that they're
theory.
making
That's
for our
right.
nation.
Finland
I know
also,
it's
by the
not
way,
pleasant,
number one in
although some
education.
people have said
Best
they've
te-
gotten
you know
to know
why?
their family
Because they pay their teachers better than they
and
pay
they love their
almost
family
any other
more than ever.
profession. in
That's
the
a beautiful
country.
thing. They've actually gotten to.
If you want to be a
No.
teacher, you got to be real good at
They
your
were in the
job.
same house with their family for a long time. I guess it can also work the other way, perhaps, but we don't want to talk about that. And I want
What?
to encourage everyone
What are
to
you talking
keep
about?
following our guidelines on slowing
I know
the
I
spread.
drifted away for a minute, but what did we
Sustaining
just
this
come
war
back
effort
to?
is, and that's what it is. This is a war effort.
What are you talking about?
Is the
social
patriotic duty of
distancing?
every citizen. While we may be more
Could you social
physically
distance
distant
yourself from this
for a
country,
time,
Donald?
we're closer
Please.
together in the heart and in the spirit. And through this great national unity is happening. We're having a great unity developing that a lot of people didn't think would be possible to
Who?
develop like this.
Who said this
And we will
won't be
conquer
possible?
the disease
Who was
and
like,
restore our nation to its
coronavirus?
full and glorious might.
America's not
We're
going to
doing
have a
really
unity
well,
that's
and I'm
going to be very
proud of
good.
everybody out there, we're very
A lot
proud
of
of
people.
you.
That's one of those
It's,
jabs again. A lot of
something that
people. A
nobody
lot
could
of
have
people
ever
said this wouldn't
projected.
happen.
It's been
We
over
wouldn't have. No one
100
said
years
it.
that a
No one
thing
said
like this
anything.
has happened. And the problem with this one is the contagion. It's so contagious. Nobody's ever seen anything like that.
It's not
where
true.
It's so contagious.
It's
You
not
can
true.
be
There are many viruses
feet
that we've
away
seen
and just
that are
talking
far
to
more
somebody and
contagious.
catch it.
I thought you said it wasn't
can
contagious
catch
when
it.
one of his talks.
You know how
course he
long
did.
it can live on surfaces.
He's
so
the
things that nobody
like
even thought of.
paragon
the level of
of
contagion.
double speak.
So we're
Where
getting
like
there.
he'll say both. Oh,
We're
it's
gonna make
nothing.
sure
It's
that
no
it's
big deal.
over
And
soon.
also, by the way, everyone's
And
going to
just keep
die.
going.
And that way,
It's
if
not gonna
one
be
of those
long.
things
Thank you
happens,
very
he can
much.
say,
And
"Oh,
with
I
that,
said
I'd like
that.
to ask
I was right."
Dr. Hahn to speak. And
Solo?
he's
Yeah, I
been
don't know. We haven't seen a Dr. Hahn yet, have we?
doing yeoman's work at the FDA. Thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you.
Hmm?
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to speak about hydroxychloroquine
Moby?
and the efforts around that.
It's an elf.
Just to preface, I'd like to.
I didn't know they
echo
were
what
getting
President
the
said about the American
principal
people and
from
the
Community
resiliency
to
and
talk here.
Just terrific work.
It looks
Mitigation
like
is
an elf
such an
from
important part
Warcraft.
of our fight against the
does.
COVID-19 virus. Last week, as the President said, we issued an emergency use authorization.
It is funny. He
to
looks.
allow the donated hydroxychloroquine
He
to
looks like
come
a
into the
child
country
at
and
a-
enter the
at a
general
big boy
circulation. We are prioritizing this drug to come in for clinical trials, also into general use for physicians,
What is
because
he
as you know,
doing?
physicians,
He's so
based upon
fidgety.
their interaction with the patients, their
Oh,
assessment
Trump?
of the risks
Yeah.
and benefits,
He
can
does
write a
this in
prescription
every
for
talk so far.
hydroxychloroquine
He
Yeah.
if
just,
they
like,
think it's
fidgets
He doesn't know
appropriate
how to
for the patient.
stand. When he's
Being
not
a
the center of
physician,
attention, he
we
doesn't
do
know
this
what he's
all the
doing.
time,
He doesn't know what to do.
And that assessment needs to be done between a
He's not even
patient
listening.
and a doctor.
He's looking at the
And then
audience.
the third portion is we wanted to make sure
could
that
smile,
these drugs
too.
are in
Why
the
is he
circulation
so
in the
unhappy?
Guess.
in
I mean,
the supply
it-
chain,
you know,
so that people
it is
who
about a
have them
pandemic.
or need them
So I don't
for the
get-
other indications.
I don't have any
lupus,
bone to pick
rheumatoid
about like his
arthritis, have them
expression,
available.
but like
So that was the purpose of the
he's
emergency
totally
use
somewhere else
authorization.
right now. He's
One
not in
other
the
thing I'd
moment.
like
He's
to
not
mention
listening.
is
He's
that
not
we on
thinking. He's
Friday
not
stood
worried
up a
about
formal,
how this is going to be
convalescent
received.
plasma program.
He's not worried about the American
We
people.
have a
He is
great
thinking
deal of
about what he's going to have for
enthusiasm
dinner
that.
later.
Some reports that this
And,
is a
whether or
benefit
not
to
Melania-
patients
It looks like
in other
he keeps
countries who have
checking out
had
the
the
dude's
COVID-19
dick.
virus. And what this
Oh,
means
doesn't
is
it?
taking plasma from
Is he trying to
patients
read
who
it? Is he
had
like,
the virus
wow, he's a good
and
reader.
have
Is he
recovered,
reading?
and
He's
transferring
just
the
leaning.
immunity,
He just
the
leaned in.
immunoglobulins
Yeah,
for
he
immunity
did this
from
in
that
one of the
person
other talks
to
we
someone
watched.
who's sick.
I thought he was like
and we're
reading the
hopefully
notes or
expanding that
something.
across the country. The Red Cross is involved in that program, and I think it shows great promise.
He's
This
so
needs to be
distracting.
studied like other
Cameraman,
things. But
just
like
take
I
him
said
off.
before, it provides
Just move
hope.
it.
We don't want to provide false hope, but definitely hope. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know what that guy said. I have no idea what he said. You know why? Because I was watching.
Thank you very much.
That
Mr.
tree
President.
trunk in the
I'd like
back.
to just take a couple of
Now
minutes
she's back.
Guess who's back?
Talk a little
back.
bit about the public health aspects and
Back
how
again.
it relates to what the president just said about the need for us to begin to at least think about returning to some degree of normality. And that has to do with what's going to be happening as we end this week and we go
This guy actually
into
knows what he's
next
talking
week.
about.
You will be seeing, and we should not be surprised because the kinetics of how this virus works is that we're going to be seeing that there are going to be deaths that are going to continue to go up.
Great.
But as I mentioned to this
Thanks,
group
man.
and to the general public multiple times, there really is a cascading of events where you have new cases, hospitalizations, intensive care, and deaths. So at the same time that we may be seeing an increase in deaths, we want to focus on the effect of mitigation is really the number of new cases. And that's what we're going to be thinking about and looking about. So we're going to pay close attention to that, and hopefully the kinds of mitigations that we're talking about are going to have the impact to allow us to begin to think about maybe changing a bit. So the question arises is the mitigation working? So let's look historically and then just look at the reality of it. clearly in the countries, China included, that have implemented it since very strict kinds of programs of mitigation. Clearly it works. In our own country, we've seen indication of that in Washington. Remember, Washington State was the first to get hit, but they put in a really good program of mitigation.
Dr.
And if you
Fauci
look at the
looks
charts
like
that Dr. Berg showed the other day, they're
Billy
still
Bob
down
Thornton
there doing well.
lost,
And the
like,
reason is, again, what I've said
like
before,
someone
but I
cut
think
off
it's
Billy
worth
Bob
reiterating,
Thornton's shins,
that we have two opposing
so
forces
he's like
here.
5 feet
The
even.
virus, which is wants to do what the
And he
virus
chain
wants to
smoked
do.
for like 70
Viruses
years.
transmit from
Our
people to
baby's
people.
going insane.
When people are separated from each other,
Think
virus
you'll be
does
okay?
not
Yeah, I think I'll be
transmit.
fine.
It
Think you
doesn't
can
go
handle
anywhere.
this?
I think I can.
And that's the reason why something as simple as the physical
bottle.
separation, because if you look at the vice president's chart that he shows all the time here from this podium, every aspect of that ending the COVID outbreak in 30 days has some aspect of it of physical separation, whether that's avoiding crowds, whether that's staying 6 feet away from people, whether that's doing teleworking, all of it does that. That's our most important tool. We'll be talking about vaccines and drugs and things like that that will mitigate later. But this is what we really have to do. And I want to actually just plead, as I do multiple times from here, to the American public. You know, as sobering and as difficult as this is, what we are doing is making a difference. So we really need to continue to do that. I must tell you, I was just mentioning to the vice president as we came in, last night when I wasn't here, I went out with my wife and actually did a little power walking down Massachusetts Avenue for those who live in
I
Washington.
love that
know
Dr.
what
Fauci
I'm
is talking about the importance of
And we
standing at least
passed a
6
couple
feet,
of
6 to
restaurants
10
where
feet away
people
from
were
everyone
getting
around you,
takeout food.
while standing
The
2 feet
restaurants
away
were closed to
from a
people
man
going in,
who
but they were open to
going
takeout.
against
And
the
I saw something that
CDC's
absolutely
recommendation
made
to
me
wear a
feel
mask.
really, really good.
chose not to wear
They
a
were
mask.
separating themselves by at least 6 feet. In fact, some of the restaurants had little things on the floor that said, stand here and then stand there. And I think if we as a nation pull together to do that,
Yeah,
hopefully
about
when
some
we
time.
keep coming back here at these
Shove
press
the
conferences,
pacifier
we'll be
in.
able to show
What a
you
great parent.
that that curve that we keep talking about is going in the right direction. I'll be happy to answer questions later. Thank you.
He's pissed.
Okay,
Who?
please.
Yep.
You said earlier that
Oh,
the
questions.
virus is springing
It's our
up in areas
favorite
we did not
part.
expect. Yesterday you said some states in the country are not in jeopardy.
I'm going to take a drink
The fact that
every
this is
time he gets
unpredictable,
defensive.
Isn't that an argument?
I feel it
for every
already.
state
He's getting
to
defensive.
have when we
I
stay
don't
home
think so.
work?
Look, there are some states that are, you have great distance, natural distance,
This is
big land,
defensive.
There are
few people.
some states
and they're
that
in
have
very
great
good shape.
distance.
And if there
What
is
does
a
that
case, they can
mean?
You didn't
quarantine
take a
that
drink.
person, or that
I
person
did.
will
No,
be
you took one because you
separated,
felt
will be
he
brought
was
to a
getting it,
hospital,
and now
rescue
he's actually
area.
defensive.
So you do have
So you
different
have to take another
cases.
drink.
as
I'm
opposed to
gonna
New
level
York
with
or
you. If I
Los
do it,
Angeles.
I'd have to drink
Los
throughout the
Angeles
whole
is
thing
doing
and I would die.
incredibly well, by the way. But areas where you have lots of people tight
Our baby
together,
is
it's a
crying.
bit different. So,
And
no,
I'm
it's
about
they're
to.
different. There are many different cases. Please.
Bottle's warming up.
You mentioned the military off the top, so 1,000 troops going to New York, and then are we expecting other mass deployments around the country? And then is it just the Army? Is it
No, not mass. Many of the places are really in great shape. They really have done a fantastic job.
Okay, baby.
And we may add to the 1,000, but New York will be getting about 1,000 military people, nurses, doctors, lots of other people, because that's what they need. Yeah, and that's medical. No, medical military. Please.
Sir, you tweeted earlier today that you liked the idea of a second coronavirus task force that was focused on reopening the
Thinking
economy.
about it.
So I was wondering if you were planning to go forward with that.
Thinking
if you-
about it. Getting a group of people, and we have to open our country. You know,
A
I had
second
an expression,
coronavirus
the cure
task
can't be
force. I
worse
cannot wait to
than the
see
problem
see
itself,
who's on
right?
that.
There's another
Said
one.
it by saying.
He's thinking about it. He's thinking
I
about making a
continue to
second
say,
one with a
cure
different
cannot be
objective.
worse
The
than the
objective would be to
problem
open
itself.
the
You
economy
gotta get
back
our
up.
country open.
So let's see who would be on that. Carly Fiorina,
Reopening. Can you talk
Um,
about your call with
Chris
the
Christie.
commissioners? Did you say you'd like to see people back?
Oh,
fans
it's
back
definitely
in
going to have
the
what's his face, ugly with the
Absolutely.
beard,
I want fans
Texas.
back in the arenas.
I don't remember his name.
I
The
think
senator
it's-
from
I think
Texas.
it's by whenever we're ready. I mean, as soon
Oh,
as
yeah,
we
that's
can.
defensive.
Obviously. And the fans want to be back too. You know, they want to see basketball and baseball and football and
Nobody
hockey.
wants
They
to
want to
watch
see their
basketball.
sports.
Lots
They
of
want to
people
go
wanna watch
out
basketball.
onto the golf courses.
He wants
and
to watch basketball.
breathe
Jesus.
nice, clean, beautiful, fresh air. No, that's it.
People can be
I
back.
can't tell
Based
you.
on the
I can't tell you a
science.
date, but I think it's going to be sooner rather than later. But and you know, we're not going to have separation for the rest of our times on the planet. We
This
need
is
it
my
for
life
this
now.
period of time, but eventually people are going to be able to occupy those seats in arenas next to each other, like we have for all of my life and all of your life. They want to sit next to each other at restaurants. They don't want to be, 6 feet away. And
I would love to be 6
Some
feet away from
restaurant
people for the
man
rest of
called
my
up and
life.
said, "Yeah,
I think
Mark,
most of us would
I have
prefer to
a
be 6
small
feet away from
restaurant
people for the rest of our
with not
lives.
too many seats. I think he said 120. And he said, if I practice what this is, I'm down to 30 seats. I can't make it. I said, don't worry about it. That's for a short period of time. You'll be back to your number of seats. We can't do that. Otherwise, you're making everything. That means your stadium is half the size of what it was a month ago. No. They're gonna
Yeah,
be
that's
close
what I've always
together, but
said.
they're gonna
You
be
know what I've
breathing
always said
air
is
that's
that
not infected,
professional
that's not going
sports
to
don't bring
kill
in
people,
enough
please.
money. That if you cut the tickets sales by half,
Well, I'm not committing to it.
They
I'm
just
not
wouldn't be
committing
able to
We're
make
gonna see
enough
where
money.
we are. That'd be great if we
That's
could.
defensive.
But we're going to be
It's all
back to good
defensive.
health
That's what I'm saying.
soon, in my opinion. We're making a lot of progress, and we're making progress because,
We have a
as
special
Tony told the
guest.
story about the restaurant and about how they were separated sort of automatically.
we named him
People are doing
Donald
that.
Trump
People are
Dunn,
doing that. They're staying
after
in
our
their
favorite
homes.
president
don't wanna
of the
go
United
out.
States of America.
They're doing what they
I hope that one
know
day
is the right thing to
little
do.
Don
It's-
here
It's not very
will
complicated.
grow up to be just as smart.
It's in many ways it's a
as
very
president,
beautiful thing to see.
45th president
Yeah.
of the United States of America. Make America
We have no
fantabulous
contingency
again.
plan. We're having the convention at the end of August, and we think by
Why would
the
you
end
name
of
your son
August we'll be in
Donald?
good shape. We have no
Like,
contingency.
look,
It's going to be in North
older
Carolina.
people,
She
I give a
lives in
pass
Charlotte.
to, because like Donald
And I
Duck
think we're gonna have a
probably
great
wasn't
convention.
really a thing. Like I think he existed, but I don't think it was a big
notice,
deal.
I
Like I
think
don't
we
think
had
the
an
name
opponent, but
Donald
I-
was so heavily associated with
I
him at that
almost
time.
didn't know who it was. He got 0.00001% of the vote.
Who?
But I heard he dropped out 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Someone dropped out of the
I'm not
race.
sure. Maybe you could tell me. That's the kind of opponent I had. And hopefully we have another one just like that in Joe.
Oh God.
And lawmakers are working on the next round of relief packages. What was not in the stimulus package that you signed last week that you would like to see in phase 4?
Well, I think we're going to need more money for the small businesses. It's been working out so well.
From where,
It's been so
Donald?
efficient.
Where are you
The
going to get
banks
it
have been
from?
doing an incredible
Huh?
job. I think we're going to need
Gonna
more
raise
money there.
taxes?
I think. Yeah, we'll see. But based on the first
You
first
socialist.
couple of days, it's been incredible. I think that restaurants and entertainment, that would be include sports leagues, all forms of entertainment, go back to the original,
What?
where
What is?
they get tax deductibility for
Oh, I see.
what they're doing, and for people come in and buy tickets or go out for meals, and corporations can then send people into these restaurants who are going to have a hard time otherwise opening, in my opinion, and that could be the same for the sports leagues. So
But nobody's
we
going
want
to
to see
those
for
things right now.
entertainment and for restaurants deductibility, so that
I think he means
corporations can
later.
take a deduction. They'll send their executives, they'll send people there, and they get a deduction. That is something that will really bring life back to the restaurants. I think make them hotter than before. You know, they used to have it.
He's talking about
And
long
when they
term
ended
though.
it, it
like
was really never the same.
this is something
It was
that
never
will
the same.
help them
Yeah, please.
in like
President,
February
you said that,
and March of
you want to see as
next
few
year,
lives lost as possible. in this
assuming
pandemic.
they're still open.
But there are still 8 governors, all Republicans, who have refused to issue these statewide stay-at-home orders. Your own experts, including Dr. Fauci, have said stay-at-home orders are the most effective way to stop the spread of this virus. So why not do everything possible
Well,
and urge
Tennessee
those
just
governors
did it.
right
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
to do that?
What are you gonna do?
We
Fucking
have a thing called the Constitution.
right? You're gonna
Which
shoot
we
people.
cherish. Number one. Number two, those governors.
Although the
I know
Constitution doesn't say
every one
anything
of them
about
are
not
doing
being
a
able to
great
stay
job.
home.
They're being very, very successful in what they're doing. And as you know, I want the governors to be running things now. In some cases, we'll supersede, but in this case, it's not.
You think they should? I'm not asking if you
I think it
order them to,
depends.
but-
It depends on the
The
individual
debate
state
over
that you're talking
states'
about.
rights
But they're
versus
doing very
countries'
well,
rights,
and they're doing a magnificent job in running
It's going to be
their
the
states.
downfall of us. Like in a pandemic,
1,700 cases
the
right now
states
of
cannot
coronavirus.
decide
Utah
whether or
has
not you stay at home.
1,255. I mean, are these not states that you think should have
No,
those
I think
stay-at-home
they're doing a
orders?
The
great
virus
job.
is
Well,
gonna
that's a
keep
very
spreading.
small number relative to population.
It's larger than some states that do have stay-at-home orders
Okay,
already in place.
it's up to the. If I saw something wrong,
It's the same thing
if
with
I saw
abortions
a
that we saw.
massive break
When you leave it up to the
of which
states,
that's
you know what
not,
that means?
I
It means
would
rich
come
people
down
can get
very hard.
abortions,
But
poor people can't. People who can afford to cross over state lines,
no,
they
not
can get
in
abortion.
That case, but in
Poor
the case,
people
I know
can't
the
because they
states
can't
you're
afford to
talking
go there.
about.
It's the
By
same
way,
thing
I
with
think
a
you're up to
pandemic.
92%
You scared
is covered.
Pat.
92%
Yeah,
of the
well, we
country's
should all be a
covered.
little scared
And
right
from
now.
a constitutional standpoint, they made the difference.
Constitutional.
They called
Donald
the
Trump,
shots.
how
Yes,
many
yes,
times
sir.
have you read the Constitution in its entirety? Can you name me one amendment verbatim. You just recite one for me, right here. That's what they should be asking. Excuse me, Donald Trump. Can you name all 5 of the freedoms in the First Amendment?
We have to get this country open, Jeff. It has to get
Speech,
open.
press,
This country was not designed to
etc.
be closed. So we have the greatest we've ever had, and then we're paying people to stay home? Think of it. We're paying people not to go to work. How about that? How does that play? And they want to go to work, by the way. They don't want money.
Okay, this is something that I
country is
just
great.
I commented on a little while ago.
People,
We're
we
paying
have to get
people
back
to not go to
That's
work,
what I'm
and they
saying.
want to go to work. That's what's so great. We're finding out that people want to go to work even though they're getting money from the government. So then why doesn't, like, the argument for, like, welfare payments and UBI and stuff like that has always been, well, if you give people $1,000 a month, no one's going to work. Everyone's just going to stay at home. But it sounds like everyone wants to work. That's what the president is saying. This Republican president is saying that everyone wants to go to work.
Wasn't he doing the job that he was supposed to do, that American taxpayers were paying him to do? And why did you decide to terminate?
I thought he did a terrible job. Absolutely terrible. He took a whistleblower report, which turned out to be a fake report. It was fake. It was totally wrong. It was about my conversation with the president of Ukraine. He took a fake report and he brought it to Congress.
Oh, yeah.
With an emergency,
what's his
okay?
face?
Not a big Trump fan, that I can tell you. Instead of saying, and we offered
He
this
was
to
actually
him,
very kind to
no,
Trump.
no, we will take the conversation, where fortunately we had a transcript. If we didn't have a transcript with the kind of deception and dishonesty that were practiced by the Democrats, I might not be standing here right now, okay? Fortunately, we had a transcript, and it was a perfect transcript.
It was a
because
perfect transcript.
Even the lieutenant
First of all,
colonel
it's not a transcript.
admitted
It's not a transcript.
it was correct.
Anytime you've heard someone talk
Okay,
about
wait a
the
minute, wait a
transcript of
minute.
that
Yes,
conversation, everyone calls
So
it a
he took
transcript.
this
You know what it is?
whistleblower,
It is the
I
official,
keep saying, where's the whistleblower, right? And why was the,
the
whistleblower
official,
allowed to do
like,
this? Why was
West
he allowed
Wing
to be, we call it fraudulent
explanation
or
of what
incorrect
happened. So, like, it wasn't a transcript.
So we offered
Donald Trump wrote down what
this
he
IG,
said and
I don't
sent
know him,
it
I
to
don't
them
think I
and
ever
said,
met him.
this is what I
don't think-
said.
he never
It's
even
not the
came
same
to see
thing
me.
as a
How can
transcript.
you
A
do that
transcript
without
is
seeing the
verbatim.
person?
Someone else in the
Never
room
came in to
typed
see
up
me,
what was
never
being
requested
said
to
as
see
it was
me.
being said.
He took this terrible, inaccurate whistleblower report, right?
Whistleblower.
And he
Why
brought
does he
it to
keep saying
Congress.
whistleblower like
We
it's a bad
offered
thing?
to have him
Whistleblowers
see my
are
exact
great.
Conversation. It was all about the conversation, by the way. That was the whole thing. It was about the conversation, right? And then after he saw it, he must have said, "Wow."
Edward
Because,
Snowden
as I've said it many
is the most
times,
famous
it drives you people
whistleblower.
crazy. It was a perfect.
Is hiding in Russia right
conversation.
now because
So
the
instead
federal
of going
government
and
was to
saying,
lock him away for a
"Gee,
long time
this is a
because
terrible thing,"
he
he
showed
said
the American people
about
that
the
the government was
president's
lying
conversation.
and
Oh, it was a
breaking the
fraud.
law,
I didn't say that. And by the way,
and not for a
you have
good
the
reason.
whistleblower. Where's the informer, right? And here's another question. Remember, before I gave the transcript,
Oh,
in
he's
other words,
losing it.
before I revealed the real
They've got him
conversation.
on the ropes.
You ready to
Where's
check?
the second whistleblower? Remember the second whistleblower? Wait. There was
There
going to
was
be a
a second.
second whistleblower. But after I gave the conversation, he just went away. He miraculously went away. Where's the informer? Because there was going to be this informer.
He went away.
Maybe Schiff
Do you know
was
why
the
he went
informer. You
away?
ever think
I'll
of
tell
that?
you. Because
He's a
in
corrupt
American
guy, he's a corrupt
politics,
politician.
there
So
are
listen,
laws
I say
protecting
this.
whistleblowers.
Where's
If the
the
government is
informer?
doing
Remember,
something
the informer
illegal,
was coming forward.
it cannot be
But I
illegal
gave-
to
because
call
he did
them
one
out on
thing
it.
that
It
surprised
is
everybody.
legal.
This
And you have
gentleman
to
right
be able to
here
be
said,
protected
"Boy,
because
that
the
was a
federal
shocker."
government is very powerful. Donald Trump is a
I
very
revealed the
powerful man.
conversation. I
And
got
furthermore,
approval from Ukraine
even if
because I
he
didn't want to do it
doesn't
without their approval.
directly
And they
order
said,
someone to do
"Absolutely, you
something
did
to
nothing
harm the
wrong." By the way,
whistleblower,
President of
there are
Ukraine,
many people
foreign
around. We saw
minister
with that
said he did
Caesar guy. I
nothing
can't remember
wrong.
his name, but he was sending pipe bombs to like
And over
Hillary
that,
Clinton and like
with
Cory Booker
196 to nothing
and like
vote by the
a bunch of I think
Republicans,
Joe
not one
Biden, a bunch of
dissenting
Democrats and stuff
Republican
because he
vote.
loved Donald Trump so much
Dishonest
and he wanted to kill the
Democrats
Democrats.
impeached a
Donald
president
Trump
of the
didn't ask him to
United
do that,
States.
but this
That
guy was
man
super upset.
Is a disgrace to IG.
So there are
Sorry, let's go
rules
next.
that protect
Please.
whistleblowers. This dude went into
He's a total
hiding
disgrace.
legally.
Did you run by your decision to dismiss
I'm sorry, Rowan.
the Inspector General?
I don't want
by,
you to see the
Senator-
side of
We'll
me.
get off this because people want to talk about what we're talking about. But let me just tell you something. That's my decision.
But
I
it's
have the
his
absolute
decision.
Right.
He has
Even
the
the
absolute
fake
right.
news last night said he has the absolute right to do it. But ask him, why didn't you go and see the actual conversation? There was no rush. He said, "Oh, we have to rush it." He even said it was politically biased. He actually said that. The report could have been, you know who the whistleblower is, and so do you, and so does everybody in this room, and so do I. Everybody knows, but they give this whistleblower a status that he
What does
doesn't
this have to
deserve.
do with
He's a fake
COVID-19?
whistleblower.
Nothing.
And frankly,
He's a
somebody
fake
ought to sue his
whistleblower.
ass off. All right, it's enough
Someone
of the
should
whistleblower.
sue
Go
his
ahead,
ass off. There's a man. It cannot be illegal to call out the American government when they break the law.
Are you concerned?
Even
What he didn't
Republicans.
say
Republicans
is-
are bigger on
let
that
me
than
tell you
anyone
what he
else,
didn't say.
especially like
Two very
libertarians.
good friends of mine.
The reason
him
libertarians don't want the
whistleblowers.
government, like
Brought
they're
him
sort of
those,
anti-democratic
ventilators, right?
socialists,
Two very good
it's
friends
because they
of mine.
don't
They
want the
brought him.
government to have a lot of power because they think that
If you'd like
they'll
their
be
name, I'll
corrupt
give you
with
their
it.
name. No, but the governor
So
didn't mention
whistleblowers-
that. It came
Republicans
through
should
the
love
Chinese,
whistleblowers.
the country of China.
It came from Chinese
They
the
were
country.
given by
You
two
heard it
friends
here,
of
folks.
mine. But he didn't tell you that. Now, the governor also, you'll see when you read the letter, the governor also asked for 40,000. 40,000. He wanted 40,000 ventilators. Now, the governor, as you know, had a chance to get 16,000 a few years ago. He decided not to
Look
get
at
that.
this.
The
Look
state
at this.
of New
Drunk
York
baby.
has
I was
asked
right.
for
It's
help.
New York.
I'd given him 4 hospitals.
I love that he said
4 medical centers.
they asked
Then
for
I gave him an
40,000, which is too
additional
many.
hospital.
A few years
Then
ago,
I
they
gave
had
him
the chance to
military
get
people
1,600 and chose not to.
operate the
Yeah, a few
hospital.
years
They
ago,
were
they didn't
not
have the
supposed to be
coronavirus.
COVID hospitals. The boat, the ship is not.
Say goodbye to
Interesting thing
Daddy.
happened with the ship.
Goodbye,
People
bud.
aren't in accidents because there's
If
nobody
I,
driving. There's nobody taking motorcycle
I don't
rides
know.
down.
If I don't like
the West Side
blow a
Highway at
capillary
100
in my
miles an
head, I'll
hour.
see you in a little
People
bit.
are away. So people aren't being injured. Now they're asking whether or not we could open up the ship for COVID. We have given the governor of New York more than anybody has ever been given
It's probably
in
not
a
true.
long time. I'll just
I'm
say,
gonna
I was
level
going
with
to say
you.
in history, but
I
in
don't
a
have the
long
numbers
time.
on that.
And I
But
think he's
anytime he
happy.
says we've done something
But
more
I
than
think
anyone
that-
else,
because
it's
I
not
watched
true.
what he
Or
said
something's
today.
the
and it
worst
was
or the
fine.
best.
I wouldn't say
It's
gracious.
never
It
true.
wasn't gracious. It was okay. I must tell you, Gavin Newsom has been gracious.
Oh, I
Los
bet.
Angeles, California, the job we've done, and
Say
all of
Gavin
California.
Newsom? That's not his
Gracious
name.
or not gracious?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But I
It
think
doesn't
when
matter.
we've given as much as we've given to New York, somebody should say nice. I'll tell you who's been very nice. Mayor de Blasio has been very nice. He understands what we've given him. We brought him some more ventilators too yesterday. But nobody has been given like New York. And I think
Nobody's been given like
I know
New
he
York.
appreciates it. He just can't quite get the words out, but that's okay.
When he says that he needs 40,000.
Please go ahead.
Back to Dr. Fauci's comments on...
To which one?
Dr. Fauci's
Yeah.
comments on mitigation. On the reproductive value of the virus, the WHO had it at, I think, 2 to 2.6. Others had it a percentage point or 2 higher. Do we have a new number now based on those mitigation techniques? Have we managed to bring it down?
Well, Deb, I think maybe you should answer that, right? Dr. Birx, please. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
You know, it's an excellent question, and it's why all of the modelers, and I really want to thank them again, they're reevaluating all of their models in light of the level of the
Dr.
impact of the
Burks
mitigation.
looks like
Remember, none of us had really been through this before.
like I
So
imagine
when we
a manager
modeled
working at
school
a store, at a
closures
retail
and
store.
distancing and staying at home and all
When
of
the
these
manager gets a
pieces
phone
that
call,
had never
and it's
really
like there's a
come
customer
into
that
the
needs to
model
talk to
before.
you. And the
They're
manager
working
turns
on
the
that
corner,
very
they're like, all right, I'll be here in a second.
diligently
They turn the
now.
corner and they
Of
come
course,
out.
just
And there's
to be
their
clear,
employee
we
who just
won't
called
know
them
how valid
talking
the
to this
models
woman.
are until we move all the way through the epidemic.
Can't you just see her
What
being
we're
like, well, I'd like to talk
triangulating
to your
right
manager?
now, and instead of working on R naught, we're looking at testing and triangulating testing, test positive cases, hospitalizations, ICU.
Why is he
and
still
the
in the
whole- and
shot?
of
They
course,
even
the
brought it
recoveries,
out
'cause
so you
that's
could
also
still
very
see
important
him.
to us.
He's so awkward.
I think it's very important that the American people know that
Just
there are
stand
equal
there.
number of states with less than 5%
He's
positives
like
despite
swaying.
high levels of testing.
Why is one
So there
finger
are
longer than
states
the others?
that are
You see that?
mitigating and making this
pointing.
work. There are
pointing
also
down.
the states that you know of, the 18 states that
I think his
have
tie's the right length. It's
larger
hard to tell without
outbreaks, and we're
seeing his
watching
belt.
them very carefully, triangulating for them all of the information to ensure that clients who come to the hospital are cared for.
Twitch.
And then there's states in the middle that we're trying to figure out, are they changing
just
or not?
swaying.
Each of those states and each of those epidemics within those states may have a different R value. And that is what we're trying to figure out, and
It's so
very
hard to
variable
listen
on
to the
each of
people
these
who actually
factors,
know
but
what
the
they're
bottom
talking
line
about
is-
when he's sitting there.
And I think going into this weekend, it's really important for the American people to know this. Spain and Italy are moving through this. They are seeing their number of cases drop. They're seeing the
Except
number
half
of
the
people in
country's
hospitals
fucking dead.
drop.
Why is Spain
We're
now?
about on our
Oh
models.
yeah, no,
and on the
they got
actual
fucked.
Data about 12 days behind them.
Specifically,
At the same time, we see in the
Missed a
United
lot of
States
news
really
being
good
pregnant.
case studies.
yeah. Well, it's
giving
no, it's
birth.
super
Of the
recently,
impact
like
at
a couple weeks
Washington
ago.
State.
Yeah, well, a
of
couple weeks ago I was giving
California.
birth.
And
That's
then a
true,
series
yeah.
of smaller
what's
states
the
where we're trying
Madrid?
to learn from
Madrid
them
got hit real
how
hard.
to do surveillance. And with these new HHS Abbott ID Now kits, and I just want to thank Admiral Girard for getting them out,
Admiral
being able to
Girard.
look at testing in
Sounds
a more
like the name of a guy
comprehensive
from a
way,
kids show.
so we can be doing
Didn't you have a friend
surveillance
named
and
Gerard?
mitigation simultaneously, so we can answer that
Yes.
very question. It's going to be very difficult to answer at this moment across the United States because
Like
each
Admiral
metro
Girard.
cluster is on a different pathway
what?
as they move through the epidemic, and I think we just really ought to emphasize
Maybe he knows
through,
what you're watching now.
because we see Italy,
Hear me
we
yelling.
see Spain moving through, and we hope to be
I
in
see
that
Italy, I
same
see
position.
Spain.
At the same time, as the president said, he's concerned about every single person that is succumbing to this virus. We
Yeah,
all
he
are.
looks real
And
concerned.
that's why we're making sure that in this triangulation, they're tracking minute by minute. When we say FEMA and HHS is tracking minute by minute the ventilator, hospital, and ICU bed need, that's exactly what's happening. And also being flexible and responsive. To have DOD take 1,000 healthcare providers
What's
out of
DoD?
their medical
Department
corps
of-
is a very
Oh,
big
yeah,
deal.
probably.
I was in the medical corps for 29 years. We never did that. So this is saying we respect
Why
and
is this whole
understand the
thing
importance
just
and
about
value
saying
of the
Donald Trump is
American
okay at his
lives
job?
and doing that? But the R values will be variable
I remember
by
when he
state.
first started giving speeches, and the first speech he gave,
Before I-
where he
before I do
read
that,
from a
I had breaking news
teleprompter and
last
didn't put his
night.
foot in his
You know
mouth.
that, you saw that.
I remember there was a great
Where,
article that was
I think the
there was a
probable
journalist who said that like
presidential
just because
candidate for the
Donald Trump didn't come out and
Democrats
take a
would be
dump
Joe
on the
Biden.
floor, all of a sudden he's
And
presidential.
he agreed that I was correct when I
This any
stopped
president before
people
this,
from China
this
very
would be
early,
so
very, very early
strange
from
to have a
coming
bunch of
into
people
our
come out and be
country.
like, no, no,
Dr.
no, don't
Fauci
worry,
said
guys, the
that was a
president's
very
doing
big
a great
moment
job,
because
I
it would be
promise.
a much
You know?
different picture we have right now. Had we allowed thousands and thousands of people from a specific area, I don't have to go into it, from China, to come in highly infected, it would have been a very
Hear him
different
try to
thing.
breeze
The
over
other
it.
thing, so I appreciate
He's got
the
to
fact
throw
he
that
did,
dog
because I
whistle
was called
in,
xenophobic,
that like hint
racist,
of
I was
racism.
called many things.
He's just got to slip it in there. He's like,
when I did
okay,
that
okay,
very
okay.
early.
I won't call it a
And he
Chinese
got a lot of
virus.
credit for
But
it
he's like, but you know,
when,
from
the
that area
Federalists,
from
because
China.
the Federalists covered the whole
It's like
journey.
the virus is coming, you know,
And they
from
said
that area
Trump
from China.
I didn't speak to the author, respected author. They said Trump was right at every single move.
I
and
bet.
on top of that, he was
I
going
bet
through
that's
a
what they
fake
said.
impeachment,
Trump was
a
right
hoax.
at every
I was going through a
single
hoax
move.
when I made the decision.
Period.
And that does take a little time, and certainly a little thinking time. But I appreciated the fact that Joe Biden announced last night that he now agrees that I was correct.
What?
You saw the report come out.
I'd like to see
that I was correct when I stopped people from China coming in at a very early date.
President, can you talk about the Captain
If I could get him to never say the word China again.
who was removed?
Can we just get him a
Captain
dialect
Commander of
coach
USS
to teach him how to speak with an
I don't know if you
American
saw the
dialect
videos
so he
of
doesn't say
sailors cheering for
China?
him as he left. Our reporting shows
China.
that some
Stopping
sailors
people
have
from
said that they're
China.
worried to re-enlist because they are not convinced that commanders are taking care of their health and taking care of them.
Yeah.
Can you, what do you say to them?
Well, I don't
And
know
how
much
does
about
remove-
it.
how
I
does
can only
removing
tell
this
you this.
happen?
Here we have one of the greatest. Here we have one of the greatest ships in the world, nuclear aircraft
Greatest
carrier.
ships in
Incredible
the
ship
world.
with thousands and thousands of people. And you had
What
about
qualifies
120
the ship
that
to be one of the greatest?
were
It's
infected. Now,
just
I
the
guess
most
captain stopped
buoyant,
in
like it's
Vietnam
the
and
best
people
at
got off in
floating
Vietnam,
on
but
water.
Perhaps you don't do that in the middle of a
have guns.
pandemic or.
Well,
or
that would
something
be like one of the
looked
most
it was going to be, you know, history
violent
would say you don't
ships, or like
necessarily
deadly
stop and let
ships,
your
but like a great
sailors
ship,
get
one of
off,
the greatest
number one.
ships.
But more importantly, he wrote a letter.
Because it didn't sink.
The letter was a 5-page letter from a captain, and the letter was all over the place. That's not appropriate. I don't think that's appropriate. And these are tough people.
I don't think you're
these
appropriate.
Are tough, strong people. I thought it looked terrible, to be
Is he
honest with you.
Italian?
They
No,
made their
Donald Trump?
decision. I didn't
Yeah, he
make the
keeps doing
decision.
those
Secretary of
Italian
Defense was
hand
involved. And a lot
No,
of
he's
people were
just a
involved.
salesman. That's a
I
sales
thought it was
tactic.
terrible what he did. To write a letter.
He's like,
I mean, this isn't a
Icelandish
class on
or-
literature. This is a
Nordic
captain
or
of a
something.
massive ship that's nuclear
something
powered.
Europe.
And he shouldn't be talking that way in a letter. He could
it was
call
Europe,
and
but like
ask
something like
and suggest.
colder
But he
Europe.
stopped in Vietnam.
Russia?
A lot of people got off the boat. They came back and they had
It's not even
infection.
technically Europe.
And
It's
I
Eurasia.
thought it was inappropriate for the captain of a ship to do. I don't want to comment as to whether or not, but I agree with their decision 100%. In the back, please.
I feel like that needs to be on every Donald Trump bingo board. I don't even want to comment on it, but I agree with it 100%.
He has professionals from the Democrats
Mr. President,
writing.
let me just read what he said. He said Donald Trump is not responsible for the coronavirus, but he is responsible for failing to prepare our nation to respond to it.
Oh, is that what Joe
How do you
Biden
respond to
said?
that, sir?
He didn't write that. That was done by a Democrat operative. He doesn't write. He doesn't. He's probably not even watching right now. And if he is, he doesn't understand what he's watching. But just so you understand, it was very nice what they wrote out. I don't know. You know, they released it at a
If he's
strange
talking
time.
about Joe Biden right now,
Sort of a strange time
Joe
to release
Biden
something
is going
like
to get
that.
fucking demolished.
But he admitted I was
in
right.
the debates with
and
him.
if you read the Federalist story,
It
which most
terrifies
of you
me.
won't, because you don't want to, but you'd learn something. Because if you go, it goes through a chart times. I was early. Dr. Fauci, I don't think he's changed his mind, but he said it was a very important step when we stopped China from coming in from the specific area that was
Don't you ask
heavily
him? He's right
infected.
there.
We'd have a whole different thing right now. So I don't really know what Joe Biden said. I don't really care. And again, I see every once in a while I'll say something, I'll make a speech, and then it'll be critiqued, and I'll get this beautiful, brilliant critique. Joe Biden didn't write that. Joe Biden didn't write that. He wished he did, but he didn't. Go ahead, please.
He's right.
Here's the question. China has warned of a
Biden can
resurgence
barely
of the
keep his
virus.
eyes open.
Has the U.S. developed a plan if, in fact, a second wave of the virus does, in fact...
He was just leaving in the middle of the question.
One of the things that obviously is parallel with thinking about the possibility, as I mentioned a little while ago, about mitigation allowing us to turn the corner very much on the front burner, is what happens when
How
we do.
tall is
because
Dr.
the
Fauci? Look how
risk
much
of
taller
there being
she
a
is than
resurgence
him.
is real. So what we need to do, and I believe I said this before, but it's worth repeating,
Huh?
He's a
that
little
what we
old
need to have in
scientist.
place,
I
and
think
we will
Donald Trump's
have that
pretty
in
tall,
place,
so she must be pretty
is that
tall,
as
too.
you then pull back, you have to have the capability of, in a very pristine,
Hey, Google,
precise way,
how tall
do
is
the kind
Donald
of
Trump?
containment when you do see it. Because remember, when
Donald
you get to
Trump is 63
mitigation,
inches tall.
containment takes the back seat because you're just struggling to
I don't know
mitigate.
what that means.
But when you get it
63
down,
inches tall.
you need
Hey,
to
Google.
make sure it doesn't resurge. So that
Oh,
will
is that what-
require the ability to
63 inches
test,
tall.
to identify,
You okay,
to
babe?
isolate,
I'm great.
and to do contact tracing. That's what we have to have in place, and hopefully we
want
will
some
at the
more
time
ice?
that we then pull back.
Hey Google, how tall? Whoops. How tall is Dr. Fauci?
Plasma that people that were infected.
Sorry, I don't have any information about that.
Yeah, probably. He's not
And
that
they're
popular of a
transferring
guy.
to family members. Can you walk us through that's working? And is it kind of like a case by case basis for hospital? What are the results from that? Just what's happening?
So this is a situation where someone who's recovered from the virus.
He looks like
doesn't have
Mr.
the
Clean,
virus in their system at all.
Like when
You can
Mr.
take
Clean was in
plasma.
college
This
and
is
in a
pretty routine
band.
procedure. You can actually donate a couple times a week, a couple times a month, frankly, and give that plasma. That plasma contains the proteins in the blood that have the antibodies against the virus. You can take that, process it, and then give it to someone who's ill. And so that allows you to transfer that immunity. It doesn't have to be matched by family or anything like that. Since last Tuesday, the Tuesday before last, we've allowed academic
Last
centers and
Tuesday,
other laboratories
you know,
and hospitals
the
around
Tuesday
country
before
to do this
last.
on a compassionate use basis. What we did was we pulled this together in what's called an expanded access program and run it through the Red Cross because they've got the greatest system and capacity for doing this. And this allows us to scale up so that when people get sick, we can actually have these donated plasma packs given to the patients.
This might be what they're talking about. I wasn't paying attention. But did you hear that the Red Cross and various others, I don't know if you know this,
So,
if you are gay, if you have had
started with the
intercourse
Red
with someone of the
Cross
same
in this
sex as
program.
you,
We made an
it's
announcement
illegal for you
yesterday.
to
We are
donate
planning
blood.
to actually
Did you know
scale
that?
that up, and we'll have more information this
They've
week because we want to make sure we
waived
have the
that for
systems in
now.
place. It's a super
Or I think
question.
it's like it used to be if you had had sex with someone in the past 12 months, and now they're doing it in the past 3 months instead. And I am like so offended by that because it's like it has always been like, well, it could be dangerous, and now they're like, okay, but we really need it now. So,
It was because it was dangerous.
We're very
And he said he
disappointed
was
in
a big
3M.
thing.
They should be
But
taking
even then,
care of our
they
country.
didn't realize that, like,
sell to others.
there were
but they should
there
be
are a lot
taking
of people who are
care of our
bisexual
country.
who have sex with
The
both
people
men
that
and
have
women.
dealt with them have dealt
Um,
successfully with
and because
many
of that,
companies over the last
you are
month.
just as likely, if
They
you
don't
have
like
AIDS,
the
to be
way
female
3M
as
has
you are to
treated
be
our
male,
country.
to be straight,
They don't
to
frankly
be
like
bi,
the
to be all sorts
representatives
of things.
3M. And no act of
Basically,
you said
it's a weird
piracy,
thought,
right? Piracy?
but viruses don't
There's been no act
discriminate.
of piracy. Now, there's been no act of piracy. It's the opposite.
What?
3M has not treated our country well. And if they do, great. And if they don't, they're going to have a hell of a price to pay. Okay? I say it
No,
that
they're
way.
not.
And I watched
They're
him
gonna
on
make bank.
television.
They're gonna make a lot of money.
On something talking about how this is so hard to believe, so hard to fathom.
I don't understand
They ought to
why
get
so many
their act
people run
together,
on
because
capitalism.
I got involved,
And then they're
I looked at what
surprised
happened.
when
They
companies
have
try their
not-
hardest to make
3M
as much
has
money as
not
possible.
treated our country
The whole
well.
point of capitalism is
Go
to
ahead,
incentivize companies to
We'll
prioritize
get you the
profits.
information.
3M is prioritizing their profits.
I was wondering about what you're seeing.
Why is
as far
this a
as
surprise?
Patients in regards to coronavirus. I know the president mentioned this earlier, but what does the medicine say?
What is the question? Is that what is the incidence of coronavirus?
Lupus, do you have a greater chance of getting coronavirus? or-
There's right now. This is being looked at in a
question.
natural history study. We don't have any definitive information to be able to make any comment on that. It's an obvious good question because it might be a way for us to get some interesting and potentially important data as to the role of those medications.
Using your
But that's
phone,
something
that's
that
all.
is
That's
now
all
being
we'll
looked
notice.
at, but we don't have any data to be able to say anything definitively.
And I hope they use
How tall
the
is Dr. Fauci?
hydroxychloroquine, and they can also do it with Z-Pak, subject to your doctor's approval.
Oh, we
all
got
of
it.
that. But I hope they use it because I'll tell you what.
It's not gonna tell me. It's got to be like.
What do you have to
5'4".
lose? In some cases, they're in bad shape. What do you have to lose? It's been out there for a long time, and I hope they use
Dr.
it.
Fauci
And,
height.
They're going to look at with doctors, work with doctors, get what you have to get. But we have it stockpiled, and it's we have a lot of
I'm
it.
not gonna find it.
And we're getting
It's
more
just
of
not
it,
popular
and as
enough.
I told
If
you, I
you're
spoke
out
to
there
Prime
and you
Minister
have
Modi, we're getting more of it.
direct
We have a
contact with
lot
Dr.
of it.
Fauci,
And I hope they use it because it's
okay,
been used
wait
for a long
until
time.
coronavirus isn't a
And
thing
therefore
anymore.
it's passed the safety
But if
test.
you, after this is all over, and you
FDA
can
has
get
been
close
terrific.
enough to him,
Dr. Hahn,
get a
I
tape
appreciate it
measure
very much,
and
too.
just hold it next
But
to
I've
him
seen some
and just see what it
results.
says.
Now
Let
it's
me know.
early, I guess. It's early, but and they should look at the lupus thing. I don't know what it says, but there's a rumor out there that because
They should look at the lupus
very
thing.
effectively, as I understand
Well, I
it. It's
think
a
he's
drug that's
being
used for lupus.
defensive 'cause I think
So there's a
Dr.
study out there
Fauci
that says
said
people that have
he was
lupus
wrong
haven't been
We're never gonna see him
catching
again.
this virus.
He gave Dr. Fauci
Maybe
a
it's
second
true, maybe
chance
it's not.
after
Why don't you
fucking
investigate
face
that?
palming
And
on
there's
national
also other
television
studies,
when
you know,
Donald
the
Trump was
malaria, that the
speaking.
malaria
We're never
countries
gonna
have
see him again.
Very little people that take this drug for malaria, which is very effective for malaria, that those countries have
think we need
very
a
little
binky.
of this virus.
Don't we all?
I don't know. You're going to check it out.
Can we get
I
a
think people
presidential
should-
binky for Donald
if it were
Trump?
me, in fact, I might do it anyway. I may take it. Okay? I may take it.
He may
And
take
I'll
it.
have to ask my doctors about that.
He would
but
have
I
to
may
ask his
take it.
doctors about it.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Didn't answer the question.
Last week, last couple days, we've been really optimistic about Russia and Saudi Arabia coming together on a deal on oil. But in the last 24 hours, the OPEC Plus meeting's been pushed back. They've traded some really
Well, OPEC can do whatever. Look, I've been against OPEC all my life.
Donald Trump.
Because what is it?
Almost
It's an
just answered the
illegal-
question
you
with,
could call it
I
a
can do
cartel,
whatever I
you could
want.
call it a monopoly. You had a lot of different names for it. But it broke down very violently.
Double trouble.
Very violently.
Not only did we need
So
a
I don't care
binky, we
about
also had the
OPEC.
hiccups.
I really don't. I couldn't
You're
care
talking
less
about
about
Donald
OPEC.
Trump?
Let me just say,
Well,
no. I think they're going to settle it. You know why? Because they're going to be destroyed. They're destroying themselves if they don't.
Who's destroying
Russia,
themselves?
it's a very important,
Russia.
and we had a very good conversation, President Putin and myself, very good. But Russia is a big part of their
What does that
economic
mean?
well-being.
I had a
It's
very
oil.
good
Oil is
conversation.
at a
What is
record
that?
low.
What is a
Nobody's
good
ever seen anything like it.
conversation?
It's actually lower than you even think. And it's to
Did I
their
ever show
advantage.
you the Putin
Obviously,
guy
it's
at the
Saudi
train
Arabia's
station?
advantage.
Yeah, you told me
They
about
told me
Did you ever see him?
they're discussing
One
Saudi
of the
Arabia went
times
much
that you
further than
took
that.
the
He
train
thinks
away?
I
that
saw
a
the
deal is
Bible guy
going to be
once.
made
Yeah, that's the
at
Putin
10
guy.
million
Okay, yeah.
barrels reduction, and maybe more than
the
that.
guy
He
that
actually
was, like, in
indicated it
overalls that
would most
just had
likely
his
be much
Bible.
more than that. So we'll see what happens. I mean, we're going to see what happens. But as far as OPEC is concerned, I mean, I was against OPEC for years and years because I thought it was very unfair to our country. The beautiful thing is we have built one of the great,
I have no idea what OPEC
one
is.
of the things we've done is created so much.
But I bet it's
we
a lie,
produce.
'cause
We're the
Donald
number
Trump
one
is saying
producer
it.
in the world right now. I don't like it for a different reason because it's going to hurt a lot of jobs in our country. This price, it's going to hurt a lot of jobs. Now, with all of that being said, people are going to be driving, paying 90 cents a gallon. Did you ever hear of that? What's that, 1952 or something? All right. So from that standpoint, but you know what? I
Must be
am
talking
a
about the Federal
big
Reserve
believer in
before.
our great energy business, and we're going to take care of our energy business. And if I have
So I
to
don't
do
know if you know
tariffs
this.
on
I don't know
oil
if you all
coming
know
from
this.
outside, or if I
We
have
have
to do
a
something to
giant
protect
reserve
or
of
thousands
oil
and
that we
tens
just
of
keep
thousands of energy
in
workers,
case something
and our great
happens.
companies that produce
We've
all
just
these
always
jobs,
had
I'll
this
do
like
whatever I have to
collection
do.
of barrels of oils that
Okay,
don't
yeah,
get
ma'am,
sold
go ahead.
into the
You
economy,
tweeted a little while
just in
ago
case we
about,
need them later.
how sad it is
And
for
he has
kids who don't
started
have Little
sending
League
them.
right now.
He started using
But
them.
I'm wondering if you're willing to share about your youngest son and how he's dealing with life in sheltering in place.
Oh,
not
Baron
going to
von
school
Trump.
and sports.
Well, he's a good athlete, and he loves soccer.
Baron?
And he's like everyone else. I mean, everything's shut down. He's in his room. He's happy, but he's not as happy as he could be. He'd like to
He's
be
probably
playing
very
sports.
happy.
Baron. And let's see what happens. But we have to get back. We have to get back. Remember that. We have to get back, and we have to get back soon.
I think we have to get back, is what he's trying to say. I think we have to get back.
On the jobs reports numbers.
You guys ever stop? You want to keep going for a little while? Huh? I mean, do you ever stop? How many times you ask? And in many cases, it's the same. Actually, a lot of good questions. Go ahead. But keep going, yes? So you're not going to blame me that I kept it going too long?
Oh my
God. Every time you'll ask it, no. I mean, no, it's amazing. Tony. Every hand went up.
Tony
I thought
Clifton.
we've gone
We have
through
Tony
it.
Clifton as president.
think
I know you don't get
every
that
single hand
reference.
went up the last time.
Everyone, just look up,
You know what
just
it
go to
shows you?
YouTube
It
and
shows
search
you that
Tony
you love
Clifton,
what you do.
and just
Go ahead.
click on the first thing that
You
comes
do.
up.
No,
Tony
you do.
Clifton
Some
is our
of you do it
president.
well. Not all of you. Go ahead. I'm not looking at you, by the way.
He said go ahead and then cut him off.
Sports numbers yesterday. Obviously, that's kind of a small portion because it's only the first half of March. Was there anything in there that was any sign of optimism? Obviously, we all saw the numbers, down in retail, down in hospitality. Was there anything you said, okay, maybe with this virus we will see some sort of net gain?
Look, the job numbers are
Look, he's
what they
doing
are.
Tai
We
Chi.
asked everybody to go home, don't work. So the numbers are going to be,
Donald Trump Tai Chi.
astronomical. We
I'm going to
understand
teach
that. I
that.
understood that.
I'm going to go to
I know
Central Park
somebody
and
said
teach
the
Donald Trump Tai
numbers are
Chi.
meaningless, and then they took that to mean, jobs
Well, you can't go
don't
to
mean
Central
anything.
Park
And,
right now.
it was just another
I think you
fake
can.
news
I
story.
think the parks in
It
New
wasn't
York
me
are
that said
open.
it, by the way. It was a
Yeah,
very
social
smart person,
distance.
but they meant it.
Yeah, but Central Park is like a third
saying
the size of
it
Manhattan.
really is.
Yeah,
That's
you
why I
can
answer
social
your question
distance
very
To
carefully.
get there.
The numbers are what they
Walk
are.
there.
We
Ride
know
your
the
bike.
numbers were
Yeah,
going
you're
to be
gonna walk
massive.
across the
I could,
Hudson.
Because we
no,
told
I could ride my
everybody
bike
to go home
across
and
the
lock your
George
door,
Washington Bridge.
essentially, right?
Listen,
Don't
there are
come
more
to work.
important
You
things.
can't come to work. Don't
You're
go
arrested
outside.
shame.
Don't breathe. Don't do
The
anything.
president of the United States is talking.
We gotta
It's
open up our
very
country.
important.
But I know
Do you know
I
what he
know
say?
that it's coming.
I'm going to
back.
level with
And
you
in my opinion, it will come back.
I
very
kinda
strong.
don't
There's
care.
A tremendous energy. There's
because
a
it's
tremendous
just going to be
demand.
him defending himself. Literally,
And some good
like
things have happened.
the
I mean, I don't
the
know. There's one
subtext of
habit
what
that
he's
is,
saying. In
most
acting, they
of
teach
you
you about
love, you've
subtext, and it's
covered
like
me a long time
what you're
before I did
really
this.
trying
I
to
was
say.
never a big believer
His
in shaking
subtext
hands.
every time he
But I
speaks
decided
is,
if you don't
"Don't
shake
you
hands,
worry
you
about
could be
it.
winning
My
a lot of
penis is
competition.
normal
Right now, I'm not
sized.
sure you have
It's
to
not
shake
too
hands
small.
anymore.
It's not a micro penis.
couple of
Don't worry
people
about
told
it.
me
It's great.
that
It's
when you
normal.
told
It's a
me
normal penis."
That
That's
we
what
didn't
he's
shake
saying.
hands, the
I
incidence
thought
of
you
flu.
said he
Flu's
was
a big
selling
deal also.
vacuums.
And that flu might be
No, I
cut down in
said,
half.
couldn't you see him selling
Who knew
vacuums?
that? Shaking hands
Donald
was
Trump,
such a-
if he was not born
I
into
felt
wealth,
it. I mean, I
you
always
could see
felt
him
it.
selling vacuums, right? Like
And,
door to door,
you know,
like coming in and being
I
like,
was
"This is
never
the
to a point
this is
where I
a
can't
tremendous
shake
vacuum.
somebody's
It's the
hand.
best
I
vacuum.
knew
You only
people
need.
like
It's the only
that.
vacuum
They
you'll
don't
ever
do
need."
many of them.
And I know what you're thinking:
But when I ran
$100,
for
$200, not
office, all of a
$200,
sudden,
not $100,
shaking hands.
$50
And if I don't, I wouldn't be
for that
saying
price.
it. But I
You
think
forget
that's
about
a
it.
custom.
Forget about it. You'll never find a
Maybe
vacuum as good
people
as that
don't
one.
have to-
I tell you,
we have
people
to
come
get
up to
close
me all the
together.
time.
We
They
have to
say,
sit
"I
together
tell
in
you,
the
Donald,
stadiums. We have
that
to
is the
sit
best
next to each
vacuum
other.
I've ever
All
had,
that
and only for
stuff's gonna
$50.
happen.
It's such a good
But I
price."
think the concept of shaking hands maybe is something that's going to be a little bit from the past. Let's see what
You're
happens.
wrong.
Maybe they'll go right back to
He
shaking
thinks
hands.
we're not going to shake
Is there
hands
anything you want people to do
anymore.
to show their support, especially we have two doctors up there, to show their support
For
for the medical
fuck's sake.
community? Is there something that we see people clapping when nurses leave? I've seen
Well,
people
we've
make-
seen a lot of that. You might say something that
very beautiful.
I've seen
It's very
such support.
emotional.
I saw this morning where everyone's they're clapping for fire department, they're clapping for police, but they are really go. These people are you know what they're like? They're like Tony. They're like warriors, Mike.
Who knows it's
they're
almost
like
over.
warriors. They were going into
He's got the
Elmhurst
hiccups.
Hospital,
Don't we all?
which has been
He's a
tragic,
little fussy.
right near where I
We've got
grew
the
up
corona
in Queens.
hiccups.
Going in, and the people in buildings are going.
Is
I
he
mean,
drunk?
they're
He's
the rock
not
stars.
saying sentences.
They're warriors, nurses, doctors, first responders. What they're going through, and they don't even
Time
know
to
what's going to
parent.
happen. I mean, they go in, And by the way, even if they have great equipment, they're catching it. You know, great equipment. They have good equipment, they catch it. They catch it with good, with bad. It is evil. But Tony, you might say something, and Mike, you may say something.
Tony might
about
say
it.
something.
I'm glad you brought up that question because I don't think people can really.
What is it
fully
about
appreciate
Italians and naming their kids
the
Tony?
extraordinary effort of these people. I mean, it's
Because
Dr.
Dr. Fauci is Italian. Fauci's a very
did
Italian
all of my
name.
medical
His name is
training in
Tony.
New York City in a big,
There's no
busy New
more
York City
Italian
hospital.
name than Tony.
At a time
Italians like
when it was
teas,
just
I think.
what you normally see in a
Teas?
hospital.
Yeah,
When
Like
I came to NIH
black tea,
and I
green
spent
tea.
about
No, like
5 to
Tom,
8
Todd.
years in the very early years of the AIDS epidemic, which
Okay.
was just
I think they
the
like
darkest
Christian
years
names.
of my
Michael.
life
It's a
because
very
almost
common
every
Italian
single
name.
one of my
Anthony.
patients died. And
James.
yet, as we
I was
knew
going to say James. Yeah, James
epidemiologically,
Gandolfini.
that there was very
Very
little
Italian.
risk. There was a small risk, but very little risk of getting infected from a patient.
He looks like
To see now what these brave warriors are
there's
doing
this
in the hospitals.
there's this
Not
I don't know,
only
you know Futurama.
giving
Do you know
life-saving treatment
Zap
to
Brannigan?
people,
He's the guy who talks
but
like
every
this. For
single
anyone who doesn't
day
know,
putting
there's this
themselves at risk
duo
for
on
themselves and their
Futurama.
family. I just think
Zap
that
Brannigan,
the
and do you remember the name
American
Kip?
public
Is his
phenomenal
sidekick. And
debt
like
gratitude
Zap
for
Brannigan
these
is always using his sidekick
And they should just
to
salute them
make
every
him look
way she
better.
can, you
So
know?
there's this great line where he's like, or
When we were
Kip,
at
Kip is
war
his name.
and
There's a great line
at
where
the
he's
height
like,
of the war in
Kip, stand in that
Afghanistan,
hole
Iraq,
so I look
When
taller.
you're at an airport,
And it
you see
looks
somebody
like
with a uniform
Dr.
come by
Fauci.
and-
It looks like there's a
I
whole,
think
like
that's what
there's
we
a
should do when
like
we see our
divot
people.
for him to step in.
Pretty much what's happening.
Because the podium looks so much. Mikey Pence coming in.
The stories are incredibly moving about what healthcare workers are doing every day. It's not just that they're going back into the hospital. In places like New York,
It's not just that they're going
New
back into
Jersey,
the hospital.
earlier than that in Washington State and California. Where this
What is it, Mike?
It's not just that they're providing care to people. But
It's
because of
we've
the
talked
nature
about
of
this,
how
but it's so
contagious
weird to
the
hear Donald
coronavirus
Trump
is,
talk and then hear
they're
Mike
also
Pence talk.
supplementing for family.
Our special
I
guest
mean,
is
that's
back.
that's what gets to me.
He's got
When I
the
hear the
hiccups.
stories that,
Yeah.
understandably, in nursing
hiccups.
homes and in hospitals, they're restricting visitors.
Mike
And they should,
Pence is such
to
a good
prevent
liar.
the spread of the virus to be brought into the hospital. or
He
to be
looks
brought
like
out.
the KFC chicken man.
And so to hear the stories of healthcare
The Colonel,
workers who are
Yeah.
Colonel Sanders,
holding up
he
an
does.
iPhone.
Without the goatee. Like he does look like if you put a
As
goatee
someone
on,
who's
it would be Colonel
critically ill
Sanders.
with the
The way
coronavirus
that this is what makes
well be
Mike
saying
Pence
their
such a good
last
liar.
goodbyes to their family.
Nothing he says is a lie.
I mean, to be there
He's
in
really
those
good at
moments.
choosing what to say. The
mean,
things
our
he's
healthcare
saying are
workers
all
are-
true,
they're
and
not
they're
just
true in a way that
doctors and
don't
nurses.
feel like he's
Today,
avoiding the
they're
things he doesn't
supplementing
want to
for
talk
family.
about. Because that's what Donald
People
Trump
all
does when he
across the
lies.
country.
He will either flat out
and I just
lie,
think,
or he will say something that is obviously
Palm
just to
Sunday.
change the subject so he can talk
It's
about
Holy
something he
Week
wants to talk
in
about.
Great Christian tradition.
For example, when he
And I
says,
have people ask me
Camera
from time to
behind
time, send me an email or
his
on
head?
many conference
Yeah, it looks
calls
like
that
someone's
we
taking
have, they
pictures.
say,
From
"What can we
behind
do
his
for
head?
him?"
yeah, there's a journalist.
And my
Um,
first thought is with the families who
Yeah,
have
there will
lost
be
loved ones and the
good
patients.
photos of like the back of
who are
his head with
struggling
the
with
audience in the front and
coronavirus,
stuff
but
like that.
That's weird.
During
was I
this
talking
very
about?
special week,
You were
I
talking
just
about Mike
encourage
Pence
people to
lying.
pray for our healthcare workers.
So Donald Trump,
Pray
when
for
he
them
lies,
and
will say
their
things
families.
like he will
They are
say the
really
things
the
he has
hands
done
and
correctly,
feet
and when he talks
every
about the
day,
things
not just
he
of
has
healthcare,
not done correctly,
but
he
of
will
the
not
heart of the American
give
people.
all the info.
And we are all
So like
grateful for them every
yesterday
hour of the day.
at his live
And think also about the Army Corps of
live speech,
Engineers.
he was talking about we
It's a little
we
different,
brought that
depending
boat
on
on that
where
has
they are and the way they're
187
working. But the Army
beds
Corps of
and
Engineers
rooms
filling
for
up the
them.
hospital
We
in
turned the
New York City,
Javits Center into a
2,500
hospital,
beds in
and we
3
gave
days.
them countless
think of that.
ventilators. And
And
it's like,
FEMA,
no,
what
you
they're
gave them
doing.
100 of the
And the National Guard
40,000
is
they
now
requested.
delivering for the
So
states
he's
because
bad
the
at that.
states were
Mike
unable
Pence
to
is
get-
such a
we
better
dropped it
liar.
at a big warehouse where we're told to drop it. And the states were unable, some of the states were unable to bring it from the warehouse to the site. So we got the National Guard to become a delivery service, if you can believe it, and they would bring it. And some of those sites were dangerous sites. They were very dangerous sites. Think of that.
Yeah,
It's been
think of
amazing.
that.
It's been amazing. I just think I've never seen anything like it. I'm so proud of this country.
You've never
No
seen
one
anything like
has.
it. Well, he's never seen
Some-
anything like it
some
because he's not a
countries in the
politician.
world are just
Well, nobody
handling it
has. Like,
so
Didn't
well.
last time something
You
like
know, again,
this
I keep
happened,
saying it's
everyone
151. That
from
was
then
as of
now
2 or
is
3 days
dead?
ago. It's probably
Oh
more.
yeah, it's like 19,
Some people said
early
they didn't know there were that
1910s.
many countries. That's how big this is. And Mike
Well,
said
Probably
something else,
probably
uh,
not everyone is dead.
Yeah,
but
Palm
pretty
Sunday.
close. They're
Oh,
probably
wow.
it's 103 years ago.
We're not going to churches on Palm Sunday. But think of next Sunday, Easter. And I brought it up before. I said,
Yeah, what about Easter?
Yeah,
Maybe
you
we
know,
could allow
when we
special
celebrate that time
for
that
churches.
Jesus
Maybe we
rose
could
from the
talk about
grave in search of
maybe
eggs,
we could allow them with
in search
great
of brightly
separation
colored eggs.
outside
That
on
a
Easter
rabbit
Sunday.
hid.
I don't know, it's something we should
Remember
talk
that?
about.
Oh,
Somebody
oh
did
no,
say
you
that,
don't,
well, then
because
you're
that's a pagan
sort
religion
of
that Christians stole
opening
from
it
the
up to that
pagans.
little, you know, do
I
we
don't
wanna
get Easter
take a
this year.
chance on doing that
I looked on the
when
calendar.
we've been doing so well?
And it says
But Easter Sunday.
on the Sunday,
Palm Sunday. I'm
and then
gonna be
Monday
watching
says
tomorrow.
Easter Monday. What's
Live
Easter
from
Monday?
Riverside,
Yes, it's
California.
the Monday
White
after
church.
Easter.
Is that a holiday?
I'm going to be
No.
watching on a computer,
For us,
right? On a
they're all
laptop.
holidays.
I think on Easter maybe I'll be watching from a laptop as opposed.
Wait,
So
watching what?
how sad is it
Easter.
that we
I think
have
he's talking about
Easter Palm and Easter Sunday?
the president. There
people
are
are
White
watching on
House
laptops and computers.
traditions.
Wait, he just
Sad.
said Easter Palm. What's that?
But,
Palm Sunday,
but the
probably.
job that this whole country has done is amazing. But I'll say this: our medical
Yeah, he's-
professionals,
he's
what they've done,
running all of his
because
sentences together.
They walk into those hospitals. You see them putting on their gear, and they're putting it on as they're
that
walking
how they
through
put
the
it
front
on?
doors.
Evidently,
Like a
But
noodle?
then some of those people are going to die. They're going to die.
that escalated quickly.
You know,
Jesus,
it's
man.
like incredible. And we can say what we want, Tony and Deb, about young and medium aged. And plenty of
Medium
other people dying
aged.
too. You know, it's
Medium
it
aged.
generally
Are you medium
hits
aged?
the older people.
I
where they
think
have
so.
problems. It hits
I
young
think by
people, too, and it
medium
hits
age
middle-aged
means
people,
everyone
too.
between
But
like
these people are walking
25
into
and
the hospital,
60.
And I watch. I think it's incredible. And they're putting their outfit. They're getting it, and they're going in. They're going. It's like a war. Again, there's never been anything so
It's
contagious
like
as
listening
this.
to.
I think Rowan's
In
hiccups are making
1917,
this.
it was vicious if you got it.
It's like
but it wasn't
listening
contagious
to
like this.
your drunk
Now,
friend
in
at the bar talk about
1917,
his favorite
had they
conspiracy
had the
theory.
internet and all the means of communication, they could have.
Had they had the means of,
distancing,
of
you
the
know,
internet and
By the
communication,
time
it's like
people
it's
started thinking in terms
a
in those
war.
terms, they lost, I guess, 75 to 100 million people. So that's modern. You know, that's a modern day great thing that happened. Please.
Antibodies. To what extent do you think that you can use antibody tests to determine who can go back to work and how?
Well,
Pass it
I
to
don't know.
Fauci.
I'd rather leave that
Pass
to
it
the
to
doctor.
Fauci.
Doctor, do you have an answer to that?
You pass it to Fauci?
We think
Oh,
it'll
no,
be a
it's that
tool
guy.
to help us get people back to work. It'll be additional information because, as you know, if you have an antibody, that means you were exposed and have recovered from it.
You
That
just
with the
pointed at me.
information
He,
about
he
diagnosis
looks like a
should help.
moldy hot dog.
Can you scale up this testing to determine on a large scale how many people can go back to work and have these antibodies?
So as you know, a couple weeks ago, we provided a great deal of regulatory flexibility around this. A lot of great developers
better?
have been working on this. Dr. Burke's put a call out to
Oh.
the academic labs around
Nope.
the country to do this.
It was a fake
and
out.
we've been working very closely with a number of manufacturers. So we think that it can be scaled up relatively quickly.
Question for Dr. Fauci. In a recent
I'm
interview,
getting real tired,
you
so you better wrap
said
this shit
that
up, Donald.
you knew the 15-day guidance would not be enough. I wanted to ask your confidence level about the 30-day guidance and whether it'll be enough.
You know, it's tough to talk about levels of confidence, but I can tell you one thing that I feel strongly, that if we do in a very proactive way what I said in my opening comments, and people literally across the country as a baseline have that physical separation, and as we've mentioned up here,
So
there'll be
wait,
varying degrees
what
of that
happened to
depending
15
upon whether
days
you're in
to
New York
flatten the
City or
curve?
you're
Now
in a
they're
place
saying
that's
30
less. But
days.
every
People aren't
place,
washing their hands and they're
everybody
going
should
to
be doing
fucking
some
spring
degree of this
break.
physical separation. If we do that, again, I have confidence that what we will see is the turning around of the curve. Whether or not it'll be all the way down where we want, it's impossible to say. I would be foolish to say that. But the one thing I am confident in, so let's take this to the bank, that mitigation works. So it does. We've seen it in other countries. We've seen it in our own country. And that's the reason why I keep coming up at every chance I get to plead with the American people to please take a look at those guidelines that the vice president keeps putting up with his chart. Because every single one of those points has something to do with physical separation.
And mitigation does work. But again, we're not going to destroy our country. We
Why
have to
don't
get
you
back.
not just let the question be answered?
Because, you know,
Why are you
at
gonna
a
add
certain
more?
point, you'll lose more people this
Yeah,
way
he asked the
for
science
all
question,
of the
not a
problems
scientist,
caused
Donnie.
than you will with what we're doing right now. What we're doing right now, I think is going to be very successful. But you know what? I don't know. We have a big decision to make at a certain point. Okay? We have a big decision to make. We went this extra period of time. But I said it from the beginning, the cure cannot be worse than the problem itself. And we cannot let that happen. We have an incredible country. We were having the greatest period in our country's history from an economic standpoint
No,
in
we
many
weren't.
other ways.
No, we weren't.
We cannot let this continue.
Whatever happened to
So
Make
at a
America
certain
Great
point,
Again then?
Some hard
Right?
decisions are going
Like,
to have to be
his
made.
whole campaign was run on the idea that the 50s and 60s were better than
quadrupling their
than
production
now.
in some cases.
That's true.
And yet medical experts and some of these manufacturers are predicting that there will still be shortages of tens of thousands of ventilators. Is it time for you to level with the American public that there likely will be shortages of ventilators in some cases?
Could be. I mean, it could be you have shortages, and it could also be that you have some that have way overestimated the number of ventilators they need. We think that, you know, we have a
It makes
good,
no sense to have
good
a
amount
guy
ready to
who
move.
determines
I mean,
whether or
literally,
not
like an army. They're ready
states
to
are
move to
requesting
any
too many
hotspot.
ventilators.
But some of the
Like,
ones that you're talking
he
about,
needs
that was a
to
nasty question
implement
from
a
CNN.
board
But some
to
of the
make
ones,
the
yeah,
decisions
because I
on
think that,
ventilators.
frankly, you know,
He can't just
because
be
you
like,
know what, you've asked
New
that
York
question
doesn't
about
need
10
that.
times over the course of about a month. Look, we're mobilized and ready to go. We have a lot of ventilators ready to go, and if we had given them all out, we wouldn't, and you would be overstocked in many areas. What we're doing is we have a very good plan to take from some areas, even though we have the 10 or almost the 10,000.
I will
we're also
give
taking from areas that won't be as
$100.
badly
I don't
hit
have a lot
as
of money.
today we think they
I'll give
will be.
$100
There will be some areas
to
hit
any person
harder than we think,
who can
and there's
shave
nothing
Donald
that
Trump's head.
Deborah,
Just buzz
Tony,
it.
or any
Yeah,
of
it doesn't
these
have to be all the way
professionals
either.
can
Just like
do
give
about it.
one long.
This thing moves in a lot of ways.
Just one.
But what we're going to do is we are going to have, and you look at us compared to a lot of other countries, we're in much better shape.
No, we're not.
But
I mean, a lot of other
these
countries, like
professionals have done an
Uganda.
amazing job. Now, over the next week, in 2 weeks, it's going to be a very, very deadly period, unfortunately. But we're going to make it so that we lose as few lives as possible. And I think we're going to be successful. I think we already are successful in that regard. When you look at that graph and you see all of the bumps, if you want to call it, at a very low level, and you see a couple at a higher level, they were tough.
Well, but also,
you
like,
see all of
we're
those
going to do
levels.
our
You know,
best to make
when you
the
look
deaths
at, and when you hear about
number,
Italy,
the
and
death
then you
count
hear
as
about
low as
France, and then you hear
possible.
about, you know what we
Yeah,
have
you
is
don't
we
need to
have
say that.
many
That's your
Italys all
job.
over. We have, they're
Like, imagine
countries.
going to McDonald's,
California's a country.
And
New York
before
is a
you order,
country.
you're like,
If
oh,
you
I'll
look
have
at
a,
them
and the
from
guy
the
cuts you off,
standpoint
and
of
he's like,
what we're
just so
talking
you
about,
know,
we
before
have
you order,
many,
it's my
like,
job
country spots.
to
Some are
ask
hot
you what
spots.
you want
And there's
to
nothing we're
eat.
going to do about it.
You
One of
will
the biggest
tell me that
surprises
info.
is
I'll put it
Louisiana,
into this
because
machine,
it started
and
off
that'll
so
let the
good,
people in
and
the
then all of a
back
sudden
know
it
what
shot
it
up
is
like a
you
rocket.
want,
But we're going to try and have
and they'll make it for
ventilators
you, and then
wherever
bring
we
it
possibly
over to
can.
you.
Jeff, go ahead.
Like, yeah, that's your job, man.
As fast as possible,
better.
it still won't be enough.
Well, New York wanted 40,000 ventilators. Okay, 40,000. Think of what 40,000 is. It's like cars. It's a big project. It's an expensive product. I mean, some of them are $50,000 a piece. I saw one the other day, 55,000. That was before they start playing the games with supply and demand. Okay, some are very, very. You call them luxury. Some are not. But frankly, these are very expensive products. These are very high-tech projects and products, and they take a period of time.
Projects
we have
and
thousands of them being built right now. Some will be ready.
You're senile.
And we're
You're
going
losing
to have
your
extra,
mind.
and we'll keep
You can't
them
speak.
in hospitals.
You
But a
said-
lot of hospitals,
anytime
a lot of
Donald
states
Trump
had
says the
chance of
wrong
getting
word,
ventilators,
he
and
adds
they turned those
and,
ventilators down
and then says the word he
so
meant
they
to
could
say.
spend their money as something else. And in a way, I understand that, because who thinks a thing like
Ready
this?
to
It's
go
not, it's not
Charlie down
enough.
again?
If I'm told, like perhaps New York, you can spend $1 billion on ventilators and get 16,000 or a massive number of ventilators that they've been
Don't say
offered over
bye
the years.
again.
Or you can build a new bridge or road or something. I mean, I understand how that works. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying a lot of the states had chances of stockpiling a lot of ventilators. They didn't do it, and I think we're doing a very good job in helping them out. Please, Jeff. And it's a very fair question. I understand that question very well. Yeah.
Follow up on what you and the others have been saying today about it being a deadly week or two coming. Can you give us a sense, or perhaps Dr. Birx, of what that means numerically?
I'd like to ask also, I'd like to say, we know pretty much the line of attack. We know the numbers. The numbers are the numbers. They seem to be checking out, unfortunately, or in some cases, they're on the low side, which we're very happy. We want to keep them on the very low side, and that's where we're headed. And I think that's maybe where we're headed.
Saw Jesus.
But I'd like to ask maybe you and Tony, where is the week or the number of days of greatest attack?
Jesus
What
is
would
in
be
there?
our worst
I don't
day?
know, but he
if
just
that's
got
possible
this
to
weird
predict?
expression, like he
I think
saw
that's what you're
Jesus or
asking.
something.
Yes, exactly are you expecting?
So as you can look
Oh,
in
you've got
the
his
places
cards.
that are the most difficult hit right now, the Detroit area, the New York area, the Louisiana area. And we are doing it by the counties in those states because there are, mostly it's metro areas and the bedroom communities around those metro areas. Because people
Can you imagine if
went to
politicians
work
just
and got
answered
exposed
questions the
and
way
came
normal
home
people do?
and
How many
exposed other
deaths are we
people out.
expecting?
In New York now,
I don't know,
you
like
see that it's in
10,000?
Long Island,
No.
it's out in Suffolk County.
She's not giving any
Nassau
number.
County.
He touched his face.
All of
They all do.
those counties.
He's also not within.
Wayne
He's not
and
outside of 6
Oakland,
feet of
they're
Donald
all
Trump.
on the upside of their curve.
He's trying to figure out where they are. He's got
So
little
you
cards,
know when you get to
probably.
the peak, you
His
come
little
down the
talking
other
points.
side.
And when will that peak be?
So by the predictions that are in that healthdata.org,
He's trying to rush her.
they're
trying.
predicting in those 3 hotspots, all of them hitting together in the next 6 to 7 days.
Tens of thousands of deaths in that period of time?
You can go to the website. It's variable. Each one of those communities is different, but you know where New York is, how much their mortality has been, and you know what we're seeing today are the people who were infected 2 or 3 weeks ago. If mitigation in New York worked, and we believe it is working, the cases are going to start to go down, but the mortality will be a lag behind that because of the comorbidities and other conditions. So that's why all of the predictions are that this next week, and I think we said this last Sunday when we talked about the charts, and it's difficult to do. And we tried to prepare the American people to understand that you have to, as much as you go up, you have to come down the other side because coming down is a reflection of the cases that were coming in before. I'd rather not say a number, but the numbers are available if you go to the website. I mean, you can see
Does
that
that
there's
mean she
several
doesn't know?
hundreds per day in New
Yeah,
York.
I think so.
And I think Governor Cuomo has talked about that increasing still into the 500, 600, 700 range a day. So, you know,
Who do you
that's
think
very
would
concerning
win
to
if
us.
Governor Cuomo
We again
and
applaud
Trump
the
debated?
healthcare workers who are doing every
Cuomo.
single thing humanly possible to save more lives.
They're basically both the
And
same
we
guy,
are
but Cuomo is
ensuring on
smarter.
a ventilator by ventilator, day by day, to get them there so that we can say and we can be there when they need it. Because we are supposed to be that group that comes in after all of the resources are exhausted, and we really applaud
Look how
what Oregon
bored they are.
and we really
I am too,
applaud
man. I'm like
what
falling asleep out
the
here.
governor is doing about moving
Just
between
say
the
facts.
states, between
There's
these
no
different
place in this
counties, to bring
administration
them to
for
New York.
actual like
Because that's what's
cognizance
needed today.
and
A
like
different place will be needed tomorrow.
I don't know, conscious
Follow up on something that you
facts.
said yesterday that you had some concerns about Pennsylvania.
When's she gonna like
Colorado,
shit her
Washington,
pants?
DC. Could you expand on that?
We're watching them because they are starting to go on that
She
upside
keeps
of the
trying
curve.
to leave, and they keep.
We're hoping and
holding her.
believing that if people mitigate strongly the work that they did over the last 2 weeks will blunt that curve, and they won't have the same upward slope and peak that New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and part of Rhode Island are having. So this is a very important, the next 2 weeks are extraordinarily important, and that's why I think you've heard from Dr. Fauci, from myself, from the president and the vice president, that this is the moment to do everything that you can on the presidential guidelines. This is the moment to not be going to the grocery store, not going to the pharmacy, but doing everything you can to keep your family and your friends safe. And that means everybody doing the 6 feet distancing, washing your hands.
So, I mean, ditto to everything that Dr. Burke said, but also to emphasize why it's so important to do that, because we're looking at 3 or 4 really key hotspots that are still going up. It's absolutely essential that the ones that are down at that lower level that Dr. Burke showed the other day, those communities where they're still going up, we've got to make sure we don't have multiple waves of peaks. That's going to be the answer to the question of when we can start pulling back. Because if you keep having multiple peaks and different waves, that's going to make it very difficult. We put your foot on the exactly what I said just before, and I keep repeating. Just make sure everybody does at least the minimal amount of that physical separation. Because the virus has no place to go if you're physically separated.
And one of the reasons that I keep talking about hydroxychloroquine is that the question that nobody ever asks, and the question that I most hate the answer to, is what happens if you do have a ventilator? What are your chances? And I just hope that hydroxychloroquine wins, coupled with perhaps the Z-Pack, as we call it.
Coupled with the Z-Pack.
Totally on your doctors. And
Someone got
the doctors
fussy,
there.
so they came back.
Because you know the answer to that question.
Is he like
if you do have
maybe being endorsed
the
by
ventilator,
someone
you know the
who
answer
makes
to
that drug? Because he keeps talking about
and I
it.
hate
No, I don't
giving the
think
answer.
so.
Like out of nowhere.
So I don't want to get him there. I don't want to get him there. There's a possibility, and I say it. What do you have to lose? I'll say it again. What do you have to lose?
Life.
Take it.
Yeah.
I really think they should take
Money.
it. But it's their choice.
Time.
And it's their doctor's choice or the doctors in the hospital. But hydroxychloroquine, try it if you'd like. The other thing, if you have a heart condition, I understand, probably you stay away from the Z-Pack. But that's an antibiotic. It can clean out the lungs. The lungs are a point of attack for this horrible virus. But when you have a ventilator,
The respiratory
don't ask the
system
answer
is,
'cause I
yeah.
hate it.
No, an
If you have
antibiotic cleaning out the
and it's
lungs.
working
I
beautifully.
don't think the Z-Pack does that.
No, it does
I
not.
don't like the answer. Because it's not
Z-Pack
a very
basically
high
just makes you not
percentage.
contagious
So I
anymore.
want to keep them out of ventilators. I want to keep them, if this drug works, it will be not a game changer, because that's not a nice enough term. It will be wonderful. It'll be so beautiful.
What do you think, Rowan?
It'll be a gift from heaven if it works. Because when people go into those ventilators, you know the answers, I know the answers, and I'm glad you don't write about it. Mike, please.
Well, you've heard from the experts what our task force has heard. It's going to be a difficult week for the American people. You will see testing increased around the country, and so cases are going to continue to rise across America. And before I give a few facts relevant to an earlier question about ventilators, let me add my voice to what the President just said and what all the physicians who've spoken has said. Even though we see the losses rising in the days ahead, do not be discouraged, because there's evidence across the country that Americans have been putting the social distancing and mitigation into practice, and it is making a difference. We are seeing it in the new cases that are being reported. Because remember, families that experience loss up to this day and in the next week have a loved one who contracted the coronavirus, in most cases more than 2 weeks ago. In many cases before social distancing and mitigation efforts were put into effect. And so we want to encourage you, believe in the President's coronavirus guidelines for America. Go to coronavirus.gov, print them off again, put them on the refrigerator, and remind yourself to put
I'm
them
so
into
proud of
practice.
this. I'm gonna
On
print
the
this off
subject
and
of
put it on the
ventilators,
fridge.
if I can amplify the point the President made, our team at FEMA is doing a remarkable job working with governors, state health officials, and local hospitals, particularly focused on our priority areas. We'll refer to the New York metro area, which includes New Jersey and Connecticut. We're focused on the New Orleans metro area in Louisiana. We're focusing on Detroit. We're focusing on Chicago. These are the areas where we see the significant rise in cases. And we are surging supplies, specifically ventilators, but all personal protective equipment from FEMA to those areas. And just to give you a couple of examples, I spoke to governors in New York, New Jersey, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Michigan, and Maryland today alone. And in those cases, Governor Cuomo is actually assessing all of the available ventilators. We've sent 4,400 ventilators already to New York. As has already been referenced, they're going to receive a shipment of over 1,000 from overseas. And allow me to say, as I told her personally today, the governor of Oregon, Governor Kate Brown, her unilateral decision to send
I have no idea
140
what you're saying.
ventilators.
I'm sure it's not important
Because
though.
Oregon, they felt Oregon today is in a place where they could give those ventilators to New York. To me, was in the very highest American tradition of loving your neighbor.
I'm gonna go to bed.
And when I talked to Governor Cuomo, Mr. President, he actually told me they never asked Oregon for the ventilators. And Governor Brown hadn't even called him to tell him that she was doing that. It really is remarkable. When I talked to Governor Hogan today, and the President and I will be speaking to all of America's governors on Monday again, I told him how inspired I was and how we ought to spread the word to other governors in areas where they can spare resources to be joining with us at the federal level and providing them to states at the point of the need. But just a few for instances, as we track New Jersey, as I told Governor Phil Murphy, we deployed 200 ventilators to New Jersey today. Louisiana, where we're monitoring literally hour by hour what's taking place in New Orleans with some encouraging news, but still great challenges. Yesterday, you heard the President say that we deployed 330,000 gallons that have been delivered to the public health systems and hospitals there, 200 ventilators. I spoke to Governor Charlie Baker today and was able to inform him. We're watching Boston area very closely. 100 ventilators are deploying today. I spoke to Governor Gretchen Whitmer today. Detroit is experiencing a significant number of cases. We're watching it carefully. And today, FEMA directed 300 ventilators to Michigan. Again, as the President said, we're all working our hearts out. But what I want to say to American families and what I want to say to healthcare workers
What do you want to say?
is that we are going to identify the resources, leave no stone unturned, and we are going to focus resources on those areas in
If
the
you
order
squint, this
that
looks
they
like his
emerge.
health
Now,
bar.
the last thought is back on mitigation.
And it's full.
We are hoping that we do not see other major cities in the
know,
country
you don't like this
experience
man.
what Seattle experienced, what greater New York City area is experiencing, what New Orleans is experiencing.
Okay.
And that's all in the hands of the American people today. So I just want to encourage you, coronavirus.gov, put into practice.
It's all in the
President's
hands of the
coronavirus
American people
guidance,
today,
and
but
you
they ain't
will
washing
do
their hands.
your
So
part to save
not
lives,
in a good
protect
spot.
the American people, and ensure that we will have the resources to meet this moment wherever the need should arise.
A loan program that got up and running yesterday. But we're getting a lot of small business owners, a lot of concerns about whether they will get this money. Some say some of the banks weren't ready yesterday to start processing loans. Some banks are later, and some
We're
banks
way
are
ahead of schedules. The banks have been great.
Doing extra
J.P.
restrictions.
Morgan Chase.
The
Bank
banks
of
have been
America,
great.
They're so far ahead.
Have they?
This is
That's what he
typical
said.
with you in particular. Yeah, they're behind. They're not behind. It's been flawless so far. Far
That's what I've
beyond
always
our
said. The
expectations.
banks
You should
are
say,
great.
I hear you're doing well, but maybe I don't even hear of any glitch.
So generous.
They've done billions of
The
dollars
banks.
of loans to small business. And these are great loans. These are loans that get immediately paid off. These are loans that get businesses back. I wish you could ask a question where something's working so well. Now, maybe things won't work well, and I don't mind that kind, but where something's working so well, and you ask a question in such a negative way. It's doing great. Yeah, go ahead. It's doing great. Really good. Maybe it won't in 2 weeks, and I'll respond differently, but it's doing great. You know it, and so does everyone else. Everyone's shocked how well it's doing.
Has mentioned in the
Who did?
past, Dr. Burks.
Yes.
Some demographics such as seeing that men might be more susceptible to the virus, seeing in Europe more cases among the between 30 and 50 class. Has the data that you've seen in the past 2 weeks changed that assessment? Are men more susceptible?
I don't think it's changed much, has it?
Same pattern as Europe.
Same pattern, same answer that we've given you
That
for the
includes
last.
folks between 30 and 50 being more adversely affected than what we've seen in Asia?
Tomorrow I'll bring you all the graphs back so you can see it.
We can bring an updated graph, but it's very similar. Please.
You talked about possibly restricting flights from hotspots. Where
Yeah.
are you on that? Where's your
We're looking at it very seriously. Right now, we're dealing with governors, we're dealing with airlines, we're dealing with a lot of different factors. It's a very difficult decision. We're also doing testing, getting into planes, very strong testing.
you
States
say
are
we're
doing
doing
testing
testing,
of
getting
people that
into
leave
planes?
planes because they don't want to have people coming in who are infected. So understanding that and the level of testing has been enormous. Okay, and some states are saying you have to go in quarantine for 2 weeks if you come from certain areas. So knowing that, we're working with the governors.
Mr. President, what kind of test, when you say testing, you mean domestic travel or people coming in from
Both,
outside the country?
both. Some states are doing, when they land, they're doing very strong, very powerful testing. Please go ahead.
Powerful testing.
Okay, well, then you'll check up again.
Last question on ventilators.
Governments are doing it too, our government. Go ahead.
One last question on ventilators. The governor of New York said that he received donation in ventilators from Jack Ma of Alibaba, which I think is your friend. Would you call on the business community to donate ventilators, not necessarily to New York, but other
Yeah,
states
well-
like Louisiana?
No,
Michigan?
Jack Ma is a friend of mine, and he's made it very possible to get about 1,000 ventilators from China. But that was from him and my other friend. It was really a gift, and we appreciate it very much. It was very nice
Everyone's
of
his
them.
friend.
All right, I think we've had enough.
Except his enemies.
We'll be seeing you very soon. And
think we've had
I'm,
enough.
I'm sure that
freedom of press.
You know that all of us are going to be working very hard. We're working very hard. We are really coming up into a time that's going to be very horrendous. Probably a time like we haven't seen in this country, wouldn't you say? I mean, I don't think we've seen a time like this in the country, and we're getting to that point where it's going to really be some very bad numbers. We want to keep those numbers a lot lower than they would have been. And we will do that. We have tremendous talent working. We have tremendous people, and that includes governors. That includes everybody. Everybody's working. But unfortunately, we're getting to that time when the numbers are going to peak, and it's not going to be a good-looking situation. I really believe we probably have never seen anything like these kind of numbers, maybe during the war, during a world war.
Yeah, that's a
World War I or II or something. But
the war.
This is a
He
war.
was-
One or two or
all in-
something. There's
He wasn't
only been
alive.
two
And it's
world
a
wars.
terrible
And he
thing.
wasn't alive for
We
either
will
of
be
them.
seeing you soon. We'll keep you totally abreast. We're also going to be releasing new ventilator numbers because we have a lot of them coming and a lot of them going to different locations, and we appreciate it very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
So long, sucker. Donald Trump needs to just start bringing smoke bombs with him. He can just disappear in a cloud. Jesus. Alright, I guess that's it.
So what do you think?
Last 20 minutes. I'm gonna try to see if I can download that and put it on loop so I can fall asleep to it. 'Cause, man, it's hard to stay awake for that. That's pretty much it. I mean, he's just as dumb as usual, and is just as much of a good idea to let the politicians talk.
Do you feel safe?
So safe. So safe.
Rowan has a lot to say.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
That's it?
What?
That's all you have to say?
I guess so, man. I'm falling asleep. I'm so tired. I don't know if you knew this, but I've got a newborn baby.
Yeah.
And it makes me very tired. He makes me very tired.
Yeah?
I'm very tired.
Yeah.
I'm so tired.
Yeah?
Yes.
After seeing your newborn baby talk for an hour and a half?
I think you're mixing up Donald Trump Dunn and Donald J. Trump. I can see why you would do that, but Donald Trump Dunn is our son. Why is everyone yelling in this house? I just want to go to bed. I just want to go to bed.
Jesus.
I just want to go to bed and pretend like the coronavirus isn't real, and I can just live my life. I cannot listen to Mike Pence talk for that long without falling asleep. You know what? Mike Pence should collaborate with Ben Carson, and they should put out an audiobook. They should record Go the Fuck to Sleep by Samuel L. Jackson.
They should read Dungeons and Dragons.
See, that would actually juxtapose their tone. I might be able to stay up for that if I could hear them. I'd love to see them play Dungeons. Oh, the Trump administration playing Dungeons and Dragons. Can you imagine?
That's kind of
Donald Trump rolls a 1 and he's like, it's the biggest one. It's the best one. I cast Magic Missile on the dragon, and the one is the number 1. It's the biggest one.
That's
and the
kind
game.
of what I've been imagining them doing, because they keep putting out these tweets and stuff that sounds like they're playing a role-playing game.
And the dungeon master is like, no, Donald, 1 is the
like that
lowest
one
number.
that was just like social distance or something like that.
Oh yeah, his tweet just said social distancing in all caps. I don't understand. I don't know, man. These are the people who are in control of how our country is handling a pandemic. And I could not be more terrified. Good night and good luck. I'm going to bed.